And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and appreciate your patience this morning, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and plenty of things to get into and to talk about today. You know that typically on a Thursday we have the Papa Joe Takeover, the PJ Takeover. And PJ's been a little bit under the weather, so he's going to join us for hour number 2 today. But he is not going to be here in hour number 1, as we're going to have a discussion on a lot of on some things that have been on my mind for a very long time. My buddy Jason saying it's crazy, all these scenarios we discussed in 2020 out right now. Yeah, we saw it coming. We definitely saw these issues coming. And what is that? Well, we'll talk about it here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to start the show off speaking on the world of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, and what it has done to college athletics, what it continues to do, what it's capable of doing, and how, for some odd reason, people didn't see it, didn't care about it, didn't want to change it, monitor it, put a fence around the barn. I wrote a story about it. We'll talk about it here coming up in just a minute. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We're going to get into what's going on in collegiate athletics. We'll talk college football. I will recap my Week 3 picks and Papa Joe's Week 3 picks. Then we'll get Week 4 picks for college football, NFL Week 3 picks. We'll go through those. How did we do? I'll make my picks for college football Week 5. And for the 4th week of the NFL, then Papa Joe will join us in hour number 2 to talk baseball in the 11th hour of Major League Baseball with just a few games to go. So a lot of great things to get into, and I'm happy to have you here. And, of course, you're with us all over the country and the world on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're connected with the show today, watching and listening, we thank you so much. We appreciate you for being here and spending some time with us, where sports truly meets that thing called life. So I can't thank you enough for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and for the playback as well, for going back and watching your favorite episodes or going back and watching an episode that you missed. Thank you so much for tuning in, as well as all of our specialty programming, which we have a couple things going on today. And the first one will air at noon Eastern Time as my Broadcasting at Brian's segment, proudly presented to you by Brian's Landing, is going to be featuring our third episode of going out there and making food at Brian's Landing with Chef Tom McNerney. And we made, this time around, the maple glazed pork ribeye. So for lunchtime today at noon Eastern Time, we are going to unveil that episode in the kitchen with Chef and I, and get your taste buds all amped up and ready to run over to 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, for some maple glazed pork ribeye with sweet potatoes and asparagus, and so many awesome flavors in that dish. So I can't wait to see you head over there to Brian's Landing, and appreciate everybody that has so much love, and thanks to all of you that have gone out there and trusted our word over at Brian's Landing to go and try their food and experience the difference of Brian's Landing. And at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have our newest episode of The Light Between Us, featuring a wonderful, wonderful young lady in our community, and very happy to have her on the broadcast, and very much looking forward to sharing that moment with each of you, as our new episode of The Light Between Us will proudly feature Tanitha Anasthez from Chick-fil-A Cicero, and of course the segment proudly presented to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero. So that'll be coming up today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So excited to have both of those things broadcast after our morning show here on Wake Up Call. So with that being said, let's hop into it. There's a lot of things going on in the world of collegiate athletics. And my buddy Jason Lucas, who's been in all different parts of this wonderful sports world, him and I talked about this a while back, and he just sent me a message here about this stuff, and that's what I was reading before, is the fact that him and I saw a lot of this coming. We called it, and now we're living in a world where the stuff that we were talking about is happening. Matthew Sluka, in the middle of a season. See, this is why the transfer portal and NIL is worse than free agency professionally. Free agency professionally is that you're a free agent until you're not. You cannot declare yourself a free agent in the middle of a season. Like Trevor Lawrence can't just say, oh, the Jaguars just signed me to an extension. I'm going to be a free agent now 3 weeks into the season because I just feel like it. So, again, I'm not a show of personal attacks. I'm a show of utilizing what's going on maybe with a person, place, or thing, an organization, to talk about the bigger picture. So Matthew Sluka, I want to preface by saying I'm not here to witch hunt this. I'm here to say I can't believe that there's no parameters around this that allow something like this to happen. So, UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka left UNLV Tuesday night of this week, in week 5 of college football. The starting quarterback, who's supposed to be the leader of the offense, and in many cases, the leader of the entire team, has decided to leave the program in the middle of the season, based on unfulfilled name, image, and likeness promises from a UNLV assistant coach. Sluka's agent, Marcus Cromartie, told ESPN that UNLV didn't come through on a verbal offer of $100,000 from an assistant coach. I want to hit with this. Verbal. Verbal. Some people sign contracts and don't want to abide by them. Your boy knows all about that. So this is a verbal agreement. Was it in writing is the first question that I see when I see this. But a verbal $100,000 offer from an assistant coach. Bob Sluka told ESPN that head coach Barry Odom later said in a phone conversation the offer wasn't valid because it didn't come from him, but rather from offensive coordinator Brennan Marion, who declined to comment. UNLV said Wednesday in a statement that Sluka's, quote, representative made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective in order to continue playing. The school also went on to say in a statement, quote, UNLV Athletics interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA pay-for-play rules as well as Nevada state law. UNLV does not engage in such activity, nor does it respond to implied threats. UNLV has honored all previously agreed-upon scholarships for Matthew Sluka. UNLV has conducted its due diligence and will continue to operate its programs within the framework of NCAA rules and regulations as well as Nevada state laws, end quote. So now they're saying, we don't respond to threats. What the hell is going on in collegiate athletics? Only what I told you about back in 2020, when you and I and most of the world were sitting at home trying to figure out what the hell was going on during a pandemic. This stupid stuff came out. And I'm going to say stupid stuff. I'm not saying stupid in the sense that student athletes shouldn't have some compensation. There's ways to talk about this, and there's ways to have this conversation. But when I say stupid stuff, what I'm talking to you about this morning is something that I warned you about years ago. I was listening to XM radio a couple years ago, and somebody had made a statement, and they said, who would have thought that NIL and the transfer portal could be as bad as this? Who would have seen these things coming? And I raised my hand. How could you have not seen these coming? How could you have not seen the fact that there's no parameters? By the way, this all started in the state of California, and we all know the state of California makes great decisions, and I'm being very, very sarcastic. The state of California, haven't they been bankrupt, and then they're bankrupt after being bankrupt? Didn't they almost run out of water? Don't they have all of these issues in the state of California? Has the state of California not proven to us that we should probably do the opposite of what they're doing? The state of California forced the hand. Good morning, Jerry. The state of California forced the hand of the rest of the country. The state of California pushed the other 49 states. We live in a country where there is a collective union, where 50 states get to make decisions for themselves under a national law. So there are certain things that every state has to abide by, but each state can, on its own, look at certain things and figure things out. And one of those things was name, image, and likeness. And when California said, we're going to do it, other states were looking at it, but only a few states, a little over a handful of states, from what I understood, had plans in place, had laws in place to handle it. Most of the states were still trying to figure it out. And then somehow, some way, the NCAA said, we're all going to do it. And this is where I asked the question, is the national government going to investigate the NCAA when the NCAA essentially, in my opinion, from what I saw, told 50 states, whether you like it or not, we're doing name, image, and likeness. Whether you're ready or not, we're doing name, image, and likeness. Whether you have laws that are in place or not, we're doing name, image, and likeness. See, because if nobody else did it, if no other state did it, then California could essentially pay their student athletes and nobody else could, which means that they would get people that they probably wouldn't get. That USC and UCLA and these schools would be able to pull people in that they, and Cal and Stanford and whatnot, that they don't typically get, because they would be able to pay them and no other state would. But I still want to go back to that moment when the states weren't ready and the states hadn't ratified laws and the states weren't all in unison ready to do this thing, weren't in a place of like, yes, we get it, we understand it, here's the parameters, we're all going to agree to this. There wasn't enough time. And they pushed it through. Yet another thing pushed through during a pandemic, just hoping that people... It was perfect timing, right? Perfect timing. A lot of things happen in 2020 or around the pandemic that seem like perfect timing to take advantage of people. NIL and the transfer portal, and mind you, the transfer portal was in existence, but when we talk about basketball and football and the wildness that it is today, this stuff coming in with NIL. And coming in at a time where there's a pandemic, coming in when people are not as focused and things are not normal, right? Changing laws, changing parameters, or not having any parameters in the midst of chaos. Wasn't that all too convenient? And it started in California, and Lord knows we should trust what they do, right? And I'm not saying California is a bad state. I'm not saying the people within California are bad. I'm saying California's made a lot of terrible decisions. And when California said, we're going to do name, image, and likeness, they forced the hand of the NCAA, and the NCAA forced the hand of the rest of the country. And I don't know if legally you can tell states what they're going to do if you're the NCAA. Can you do that? Are you the national? I don't think the NCAA is the national government. Are they the national government? I'm just trying to understand, folks. I'm just trying to understand the gray area of one state going, we're going to do this. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're going to do it. And then the other 49 states having to fall in line with that. And look at what it's done. No parameters. I wrote an article. It's on my website. I will share it again today. If you don't put a fence around the horses, you will spend every single night trying to find them. Let's get back into the story. UNLV's collective did pay Sluka a $3,000 fee for an engagement he attended this summer, according to Rob Stein, who runs Blueprint Sports, a company that manages the collective. Stein and Sluka's agents first made contact. See, this is the other thing that's insane. Agents weren't even allowed to be on campus being around programs a few years ago. They couldn't even sniff a student athlete because a student athlete couldn't have an agent. If there was an agent on campus, there's a good chance that the NCAA was going to investigate you unless you're one of their favorite schools. Now, you got a kid with an agent. A kid. Keep in mind, folks, these kids are 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Due to COVID and all of these like special waivers, some of these kids are like 26, 24, treating college football like the NFL right now. But these are young kids for the most part. And when I read something like this, the person whose company runs the collective at UNLV spoke to Sluka's agent. Sluka's agent? Should you have agents? Should agents be getting involved, especially this early in a kid's life? They first made contact with the collective in late August to discuss future opportunities to work together. Stein said he wasn't aware of any promise to pay Sluka $100,000, and Sluka had not contacted the collective about missing payment, as far as he knew. The Friends of UNLV collective reiterated in a statement that there were, quote, no former NIL offers made during Mr. Sluka's recruitment process, and that the collective did not, quote, agree to any NIL offers while he was part of the team, aside from a completed community engagement event over the summer, end quote. So now the collective is saying, we didn't know about this $100,000. We didn't agree to this $100,000. He didn't call us to tell us he didn't have this money. He didn't get in touch with us to tell us that he did not receive payment. So he hasn't reached out to us. We didn't reach out to him and offer this. And when he was a part of the team, we didn't give him any other opportunities, any other offers except for the $3,000 that we paid him. The decisions come at a compelling moment. UNLV is 3-0, ranked number 23 in the AFCA coaches poll, marking the first time the program has been ranked in any major poll in history. UNLV defeated Big 12 programs Houston and Kansas with Sluka at quarterback. They host Fresno State on Saturday in its Mountain West Conference opener because UNLV is still part of the Mountain West. The Rebels' home game the following Friday night against Syracuse is one of the most... I know Syracuse fans are excited. The game is going to be at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, the home of the Raiders. UNLV is also involved in the process of deciding its conference future between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. Because Marion's offer to Sluka was verbal and never formalized, there are different versions of it. This is what Matthew Sluka said on social media. There's a picture of him wearing a Rebels jersey, and it says, UNLV, thank you. The statement next to it reads, I have decided to utilize my redshirt year, because remember, 4 games or less, and the school redshirts you. The school redshirts you. You don't redshirt yourself, but again, there is no fence around the horses. And I've said it repeatedly. I have said this repeatedly. I have written about it. I have talked about it at length on the show. If you're a fan of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, if you have watched and listened to the show over the years, you know that we've been talking about this since 2020. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. We spent half a decade talking about this. We have spent half a decade telling people, watch out, watch out, watch out. It's literally like somebody driving down a dead-end road that has a cliff at the end of it that is going to plummet you to your death. And I put up all these signs that said, turn around, dead end, cliff, please turn around. Are you crazy? I put flashing lights. Basically, consider what's going on in college athletics to be the bridge on Onondaga Lake Parkway. No matter how many signs you put up, no matter how many warnings you have, these idiots keep hitting the bridge. Matt Sluka said this: I have decided to utilize my redshirt year. Again, you can't, but okay. And will not be playing in any additional games this season. I committed to UNLV based on certain representations that were made for me. And I thought that was interesting there. Certain representations. Because the whole thing, again, that these kids have representation seems dangerous to me, that were made to me, which were not upheld after I enrolled. Despite discussions, it became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled in the future. I wish my teammates the best of luck this season and hope for the continued success of the program. End quote. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I'm going to leave you all here. I am going to abandon you all as your leader. But I hope you have a great season. Again, this is not a personal attack at Matthew Sluka. I'm using this as an example. Because any quarterback can say this. Any player can say this. The reality of what's going on right now is that anyone in college, in any sport, can look at what Matt Sluka did and they can do the same thing. That is the reality of life. If you think there's not going to be a copycat, you're an idiot. Because copycats happen all the time. Copycats are, once somebody breaks the seal, other people go, oh crap, I didn't know I could do that. Well, now that I know that I can do that, then let's do it. Who's going to stop me? Nobody stopped Matt. That's the danger zone. Let's continue. The only former offer from the school, according to Cromartie, was $3,000 a month for 4 months. The only money Sluka received from UNLV per Cromartie was $3,000 for moving expenses. Sluka insists all he was asking for is what the program verbally promised, with no contract required up front because of the vagaries of NIL rules again. But children, who enters into a partnership with no contract? I can tell you flat out, and those people know who they are in my life. I had somebody tell me, we're not going to sign a contract, Dan, I got you. And I was like, let's sign a contract. And they ignored it and ignored it and ignored it and ignored it. And I kept pushing like, hey, let's sign a contract. Hey, let's sign a contract. And they make you feel like, hey, if you push any farther, I'm not going to give you what I promised to give you because stop asking me for a contract. Let me tell you something. People that make you feel bad asking for a written contract that's signed by both parties or all parties involved, stay away from those people. Because a year after I did everything that they told me I needed to do and then some, you know what they said to me when I handed them a contract and said, let's make this official and please give me what you promised me? They laughed in my face. So shame on this situation. And granted, some people are ignorant, but it's like, Sluka, you need a contract. Your parents should know that. Your agent should know that. With no contract required up front in NIL rules. Ain't that fun? And third parties technically in charge of giving athletes the deals, the ambiguity over the validity of verbal offers hangs over the enterprise of college athletics. Of course it does. Because it's a he said, she said, they said, you said, I said, he said. According to Sluka's father and Cromartie, at no time did Sluka ask for an adjustment to the initial deal that was promised. When Sluka reported to UNLV in the summer, he was told the money would be distributed on a payment plan. He was later told that payment would come after he enrolled in school and began classes, according to his father. The school and collective formally did formally offer $3,000 per month for 4 months, according to Cromartie, which was $88,000 less than what Sluka and Cromartie were told verbally last winter. The current system for paying college athletes, one in which schools can make financial offers to players during the recruiting process but can't directly fulfill those promises, might be changing. Oh, really? Oh, really? Might be changing 5 years into this? As part of a pending antitrust lawsuit, the NCAA has agreed to allow the schools to pay players directly, pay for play, the one thing that should not be done. If the settlement is approved in court, the new system has the potential to give both players and teams more security in allowing them to enter into more direct contracts. Quote, the NCAA fully supports college athletics profiting from their NIL, but unfortunately there's little oversight or accountability in the NIL space, and far too often promises made to student athletes are broken, end quote. Tim Buckley, NCAA Senior Vice President for External Affairs, put in a statement. You're the NCAA. How can you come out in the NCAA and say there's a lot of problems with the NCAA and NIL? No, Sherlock. No, you know. Quote, positive changes are underway at the NCAA. Oh, are they? 5 years later, are you Congress? You want Congress to help you figure things out. Congress can't even figure out how to agree on what they're going to order for lunch. But you want people, and I'm not saying everybody in Congress is bad. I'm just telling you, when you got two sides in Congress, they don't want, I was like, if there was a baby on a train track strapped to the train track and one party said, let's save the baby, the other party would let the baby die just because they don't want to agree with the other party. And then the NCAA is like, ooh, I hope Congress can help us. What could go wrong? Probably everything. Congress has all of these problems. Congress has to deal with an open border. Congress has to deal with inflation. Congress has to deal with cities on fire. Congress has to deal with a disrespect for law enforcement. Congress has to deal with all of these things, international affairs. Congress has to deal with the fact that people are, what about identity theft and all these things that go on in our country? Congress has so many things that they need to deal with. You want them to now deal with you, deal with the NCAA. First and foremost, you're not first on the list. And the things that should be first on the list seem last on the list. So you're not going to be on that list for a very long time. Positive changes are underway. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better now. I can sleep tonight. I can sleep tonight knowing that Tim Buckley, NCAA Senior Vice President for External Affairs, said to us that positive changes are underway. You know what that says? That's like a verbal commitment. Positive changes are underway. What's the timetable on underway? Does anybody know how long underway is? What does underway equal in days, months, and years? Positive changes are underway at the NCAA to deliver more benefits to student athletes. But without clear legal authority granted by the courts or by Congress, the NCAA, conferences, and schools have limited authority to regulate third parties involved in NIL transactions, end quote. Then you shouldn't have let it happen. You should have told California to kick rocks. Why have you allowed this to happen? If you are saying to us right now, we want to do our job, but we can't do our job because we don't know if we can do our job. You told the whole country, from my point of view in my seat, the NCAA forced every state besides California to have to do NIL. And now you're saying you can't even put parameters around it because you don't know if legally you can do it? You don't know if you have the legal authority to even regulate something that you created? What type of institution, what type of organization says, yeah, we made it, but we don't know how to contain it, and we don't know if we can oversee it, and we don't know if we could stop it, but yeah, we created it. The NCAA sounds like the coronavirus. Yeah, it was made, and then it got loose, and we have no parameters around it and no way to stop it. However, we think we can stop it. NIL and transfer portal happening during the pandemic sound like the pandemic. We created it, but we have no way to contain it. After UNLV's season began, Cromartie contacted Shannon Cottrell, the director of athlete engagements for the Friends of UNLV Collective, and director of player development, Hunky Cooper. By the way, one of the coolest names I've ever seen before in my life. Quote, "They keep deferring. We don't know. You have to wait," Bob Sluka said. Then it was like, "We're going to give him game checks." So we're like, okay, great. We did not ask for a single dollar more. At one point, we are out of pocket for him to be there because his expenses to live there weren't even being covered. End quote. In what world were they not being covered, Bob? That's my question. I thought you get a free education when you're a Division I student athlete. I thought you get housing. So what were his expenses is my question. Because I read that and I'm like, what, did they not give him a place to live? Or did they? I look at it from 2 points of view. Did UNLV go, "Hey, Matt, you got to pay for your own housing"? Or did Matt say, "I want to live off campus in a luxury apartment"? You know what I mean? Like I'm seeing, and I don't know what the case was because it's not clarified there, but I'm sitting here thinking like, was that Matt going, "You need to give me a mansion"? Or was that UNLV just doing some dirty deeds? Sluka told ESPN that Marion and the agents from Equity Sports agreed to a verbal deal in the winter after a recruiting visit when they spent most of their time with Marion, but also met with the entire coaching staff. Bob Sluka said, quote, "We left there understanding that we were going to get a certain dollar amount for Matt to come there on the NIL deal, not a blowout number, but a reasonable, fair number." And reasonable and fair, I mean, that's left to your personal opinion. He said that Matt Sluka later received more than 25 NIL offers from other schools, including Big Ten and SEC teams that were, quote, 4 or 5 times the amount of money we were willing to take from UNLV, end quote. Well, that's nice. I'm happy that kids are choosing schools because of education or because of their future beyond sports or because of the relationship with the coaches or because of the feel of the campus or because of the closeness to home or because of the challenge that it creates. No. Just, it's a bidding war. Who saw that coming? After the money from UNLV's verbal promise didn't come to fruition, Sluka decided to leave the team. NCAA redshirt rules allow players to retain a year of eligibility if they play 4 or fewer games in a season. Sluka, who played 4 seasons, 2020 to 2023, at FCS program Holy Cross before transferring to UNLV, said still has 1 more year of eligibility. He could use it at another school next season. NCAA rules do not allow players to play for 2 schools within the same season. Oh, well, that's nice. The one rule that the NCAA has. But keep in mind what I just read there. NCAA redshirt rules allow players to retain a year of eligibility if they play 4 or fewer games in a season. That was a rule that came to fruition a few years back. But what does it not say? It doesn't say the player can decide. It says players can retain a year of eligibility if they play 4 or fewer games. It doesn't tell you that the players are controlled. You think about professional contracts when they say player option, team option. The school team decides we're redshirting you. I don't remember there being a world where I can just decide to redshirt myself. Oh, I'm redshirting this year in the middle of the season as your starting quarterback. UNLV 3-0 for the first time since 1984. They beat Kansas in week 3, and they on the road, and they beat Houston, as I stated before. They're 2-0 against the Big 12. And they've even been brought up in conversation of the new 12-team college football playoff, which is unveiled this season, that they could make it. Sluka, 21 of 48, 318 yards, 6 touchdowns with one interception this season. He's rushed 39 times for 286 yards and a touchdown. They won most recently 23-20 at Kansas on September 13th. Sluka led the Rebels on an 18-play, 75-yard drive where they scored on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. Sluka in that game had 113 yards rushing. His father, after the game, said Cromartie spoke with Cooper in the stadium tunnel about Sluka's deal, and Cooper said to call him the following week. On September 19th, Cooper and Odom called Cromartie. Bob Sluka said the call yielded the idea that Marion didn't have authority to make that caliber of an offer. Bob said the family never heard from UNLV's collective and is in a state of confusion about what happened. Quote, "We have no idea what the hell happened. No one can explain this. Why would you let your starting quarterback walk out of the building? We did not ask for a penny more than what was agreed upon this winter," end quote. But again, it was agreed upon. If it was agreed upon, it was verbal. You have to get things signed. Sluka holds school records at Holy Cross. He's first in career pass efficiency, 147.4. Second in career rushing yards, 3,583. Second in career rushing touchdowns, 38. Fifth in career passing yards, 5,916. Fifth in career passing touchdowns, 59. He rushed for an NCAA Division I quarterback record, 330 yards in a loss to Lafayette in 2023. Holy Cross reached the FCS playoffs in 2021 and 2022 with Sluka as their starting quarterback. After the coaching change where Bob Chesney left for James Madison, Sluka left the team. Sluka now plans, allegedly, to work out with a quarterback trainer this fall and enroll at a school in January with time to learn the system, something he wasn't able to do at UNLV because he was graduating from Holy Cross last spring. Well, you can come to fall ball. So now they're either going to go to senior transfer Haj Malik Williams or senior Cameron Friel as their starting quarterback for the Rebels. The Rebels went 9-5 last season and played for a Mountain West championship. Jaden Mava transferred to USC, though, so he's no longer there. The one thing about the structure of how we practice is everybody's got equal reps from the time we started until today, which is exciting, is what Odom had to say, end quote. To continue on with the quote, and whether it's injury or transfer or whatever it is, you understand that the next guy has that mentality. They've got to be ready to go run the offense or play safety or whatever it is. And in this case, because of all the news that's gone on with it, our team has handled it in a great way. They've understood that between Haj and Cam and what they bring to the table and helping us offensively to do what we do to play winning football, end quote. Running back Michael Allen is also leaving the team. He announced that a day after Matt Sluka. Now, this news, so he announced his departure Wednesday, but they said it happened over a week ago, according to the school. They later he later clarified that his decision has, quote, no ties to NIL agreements. He wrote on X, the former Twitter, the running back wrote this, Michael Allen. He said, quote, "This is due to on-field opportunities. I did not receive a dime from any UNLV collective," end quote. Allen had 19 carries, 108 yards in 3 games this season. So you can also just say, I'm not getting enough playing time. Go kick rocks too. See, I mean, it seems like a foolproof plan, right? That players in the middle of the season can go, I want more money. No. Okay. Then I'm going to sit here and I'm going to punish you. Or I'm going to walk away from you. I'm going to leave. I want more playing time. No. Okay. Then I'm going to leave. Is this what we wanted? Do I believe that players should make something when the NCAA calls themselves a nonprofit organization that's a billion-dollar industry? Yes, I think the players should make something. The NCAA wouldn't exist without them. There wouldn't be... Do you know how many coaches are on a college football staff in FBS now? It's insane. If there weren't student athletes, there are so many jobs that wouldn't exist. There's schools that might not even be open. So, of course, the student athletes have a case of saying, give us something when you make money off of us. You make millions and millions and maybe billions of dollars off of us. So give us something. I agree with that. With parameters. With a fence around the horses. But because of the world that we currently live in, and because of the fact that California made yet another decision that had no plan or rhyme or reason or anything that made any sense, they just said, hey, we're going to do this. And then the NCAA said, hey, other 49 states, you're going to have to do it too. Again, I would love to look into the legality of that. And I'm not saying that California was wrong in trying to find something for student athletes. There was no plan. Dan, how do you know there was no plan? You weren't in the inner workings of California's government. No, I wasn't. But look at the country right now. If there was a plan in California, then wouldn't things be happening that would make sense? If there was a plan, wouldn't we know about it? If there were parameters, wouldn't they have clocked in here? Hey, you can't redshirt yourself. Hey, you can't leave a team in the middle of the season. Hey, you can't quit on your guys. Hey, you can't hold us hostage. But since nothing is stopping free agency, and by the way, this is worse than free agency. This is chaotic agency. This is chaotic free agency. This is what, I mean, to me, this is not free agency because Trevor Lawrence cannot declare himself a free agent in the middle of the NFL season. LeBron James can't play 12 games and then go, I'm a free agent. When these guys sign their contracts and these girls sign their contracts, they can't stop the season and ask for more money legally. I mean, you could try, but you got a contract. You have a contract. And I'm not, and listen, if Matt Sluka was promised something and his family were promised something and UNLV didn't abide by that, then shame on them. Shame on them. And if his threat of like, I'm going to walk unless you give me my money, and UNLV didn't blink, well, there you go, Matt. So if they promised it to you and then they went, we're willing to lose our starting quarterback in a season where we're undefeated, we beat 2 Big 12 teams, and they're talking about us in the college football playoff, I think Matt Sluka had some leverage. So, I mean, if you're willing to let your starting quarterback walk out of the building, then did you not have the money that you promised him? Did you not promise him the money? But the reality of it all is this has opened the door for people asking for a change to their NIL deals in the middle of the season. This is opening the door for people asking for more money, whether or not they have a verbal deal or a written deal in place. This is players going to be holding schools hostage. This is going to show more people. Listen, people quit on their teams all the time. The transfer portal allows you to quit your entire collegiate career. I don't like it, I quit. I mean, look at Michael Allen, the running back. This has nothing to do with NIL. It has to do with playing time. Peace. I'm not playing that much. I'm out. What if UNLV turns around and says you don't practice hard enough? You're not doing a good regimen. You're not watching film like everybody else is. What if they turn around and say, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not trying to attack Michael Allen. What if they say Michael Allen didn't put the work in practice? He's not our hardest. He's not our best performer in practice. He's not our hardest worker. He doesn't stay late. He doesn't get there early. He doesn't watch enough film. He doesn't eat the right stuff. He's not getting the nutrition that he needs. He's not going to class. What if that was the case, that he's not getting playing time? Or what if somebody's just better than he is at the running back position? These decisions that are being made, there's already teams being held hostage. You can't go to the NFL and sign a contract for 4 years and then play on 4 different teams in those 4 years. This is not free agency. It's chaotic free agency. This is not paying people. This is chaos. This is madness. This is Sharknado on acid. And unless the NCAA decides to stop looking at everybody else and declare the fact that they need to put the fence around this. But what did Mark Emmert say during COVID in 2020? What did he say as the president of the NCAA? I have no control over college football. Okay, then why does it have NCAA's name on it? I have no control over it. What did he say? I can't stop a team. I'm paraphrasing here, but this is the essence of what he said. I cannot stop a team or a conference from playing. I can't tell them to play. I can't tell them not to play. I have no control. There's no czar. So, what a wonderful world that we live in, where we have now taught people at a younger age to have no loyalty, no responsibility, no keeping to your word, to think of themselves over the team. How we've taught the youth of today to have no direction, no identity, no care, no concern, no love, no responsibility, no morals, no values. I hope you adults are proud of yourselves. I hope you adults are proud of the fact that the future of this world has been tainted by your ineffectiveness, lack of responsibility, and overall aloofness to actually putting the work in and doing things that will help people in their future, that are looking long-term and not just short-term. When children are running around with their hair on fire, I always look and see, where is the parent? And NCAA, if you are the parent of these children with their head on fire in NIL and the transfer portal, then child services should be at your door today. Do better. I'd love to tell you that this thing can get fixed, but Pandora doesn't like to close her box. So, I will be here to talk you through it, but as I said years ago, make me the president of the NCAA. Let me go to work. Bring in competent, caring people. I bring in people smarter than me, better than me, that are going to push me. This is ridiculous. I'm not saying that student athletes shouldn't be able to leave if they're in a bad situation, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't get compensated in some way, shape, or I don't like pay for play, but compensated in some way, shape, or form. I also look at it from the state of the fact that I was recruited to play at a Division III school, and even if I did play, I wasn't going to get paid anything, and I still was going to have to pay for my tuition. And as someone who had my family was nice enough to pay the majority of my tuition, and then I took my student loans after I graduated and paid them off, I will say this to student athletes. Do I think that you should be compensated from a billion-dollar industry that claims they're non-for-profit making money off of you? Yes. At the same time, do I think a free education is enough? If you want to trade places with me and you want to pay my bills of being a student that had almost a perfect GPA, I would think that a 3.93 in my major and a 3.82 overall would warrant the fact that I could get some money. And I did get a presidential scholarship, and I did get a scholarship from Wegmans when I was working there. And it still didn't cover all my bills. So I will say this. I will defend student athletes that they should not see an industry that exists because of them make the money and they make nothing. But I also want to tell student athletes, if you ever want to trade places with me so that I could get a free education, I would have a lot more money in my bank account right now, and so would my parents. So, appreciate the stuff that you do have, for sure. Because the overwhelming majority of people that go to colleges and universities do not have the luxury of not having to pay to go to school. And on top of that, colleges and universities charge way too much. The hell is an $80,000 a year education? So that needs to be looked into. Might not want to open the door to Congress because they might be looking at some things you don't want them to look at. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. Papa Joe's coming up after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and I am honored and privileged, as always, on Thursday to be hanging out with Papa Joe. PJ is under the weather. He has been through more than enough, and with the weather going on down in Florida, he is under the weather himself, and so just saying a prayer for him, saying a prayer for MT, that everybody gets well, stays well, and we are happy to have him here, though, on the broadcast. So PJ is here with me. Thursday, we normally have the PJ takeover. Today, we got PJ for a little bit of time. So Papa Joe joining us here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we got a lot of things to get through. PJ is going to talk baseball. He's going to bring us through the 11th hour of Major League Baseball with a few games to go and divisional things to be figured out, wild card to be figured out, seeding to be figured out, and then I will carry through with our college football Week 4 recap, college football Week 5 picks, NFL Week 3 recap, and the NFL Week 4 picks so that PJ can go back and rest. But he's kind enough and brave enough to get up this morning and to give us a little bit of his time. So let's bring him in. Papa Joe, how are you?
Thank you, Daniel. I apologize in advance if I have to hack and cough. I'll turn my head away from my little device there. So it is what it is. I wasn't ready for this. The emphysema is bad enough as it is, but the pneumonia on top of that, I wasn't ready for that. So hey, you gotta deal with it. I got a good wife, good son, good family. So I spent yesterday afternoon just, tidying up some figures and some areas that need to be talked about with baseball, because there is an awful lot going on. And frankly, there's a couple areas that we need to branch off into. Talk about surprises. Detroit, Detroit Tigers have come out of nowhere. They were buried a month ago. The only person we ever got to talk about was Tarek Skubal, the pitcher. Well, that guy's the reason that they are where they are. The Minnesota Twins are gone. I'm staying with it. I'm staying with the Tigers. I've got them in my notes and everything. So he's a nice breed, a good, nice, fine young man, big left-hander. Got all sorts of nasty stuff from the left-hander. So it's fun to realize that this guy can almost will a team into the World Series area. Amazing. Now the other team that I have to talk about, unfortunately, is your Zonas. Your Zonas ain't zoning, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the way it's going to happen is that we're going to have the leaders, the Dodgers, the Philadelphias, and the Brewers, and the Padres went in yesterday, which was great after they did a triple play. Did you see that triple play? Oh, what a play. Yeah. Triple play. And the Mets, I'm squeezing in there. In Atlanta, I'm leaving on it too, because I think Atlanta and Arizona still got to fight it out. I don't know what Arizona's doing because they're not playing good baseball right now. They're hitting the ball extremely well, but you got to be able to pitch. This is pitching and defense this time of the year. Just to give you a few statistics before I get into the real stuff. You know how I like to micromanage everything. I like to say, this happens because of this and this happens because of this. Well, in the American League, guess who's leading the league in ERA? The Detroit Tigers. Out of nowhere they came, and this kid is just pitching his ass off. And Houston is leading the American League in hitting at 261. Detroit's ERA is 3.60. In the National League, got San Diego is hitting the ball at 264, and Atlanta's ERA is 3.51. So those are all very pertinent facts to be carried forward. Now, to show you how ridiculous one team was this year, it's this is almost embarrassing to talk about. The Chicago White Sox, we've really bashed them a lot. I mean, and they deserve it because they're not doing anything. They fired their manager who had a toxic relationship in the clubhouse. Who knows what happens with these idiots? The Chicago White Sox are last in all of baseball in hitting at 221 average and last in pitching with a 4.74 ERA. There's your proof. These guys are, I don't blame the players. I blame the front office, managers of some sort, some of the bench coaches, the bullpen crew. The players play as best as they can. They're just not put in a position to win. And Chicago was just pitiful. Now, you got to remember, 3 years ago, Chicago almost played for the World Series. This has happened after Tony La Russa left, which was one of my favorite managers. Tim Anderson left. He's got some personal problems. He was the best player. Luis Robert this year, I don't know what's happened to him. He got hurt. So Chicago tried to give away their team just before the trade deadline, and they got some good takers. Dylan Cease especially was a pitcher that San Diego picked up, and boy, what a find that was. But in doing that, San Diego gave Chicago whatever they wanted, like 3 players or 4 players or something like that. Well, fortunately, those players have not come to fruition. They're not playing the kind of ball that they thought, or they've already designated them for assignments. So that's just a capsule. But if you want me to start from the beginning with the teams and we'll go through it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just let me. I have to catch my bus every once in a while, and if I hack away, I hack away. Okay, we got the Yankees leading their division. Now I've got 5 pitchers on the Yankees staff that I think are going to carry them through. Garrett Cole, of course, he's 7-5 with a 3.67 ERA. Now Garrett Cole was hurt most of the year, so him coming back, he had a few rocky starts there when he got back, but he's pitching a lot better. Nasty Nestor Cortez is 9-10 with a 3.77 ERA. The problem with that is that Nasty Nestor is on a disabled list as of today. So already the Yankees are going to be hurting. Carlos Rodon is 16-9, 3.98 ERA. Louis Gill, 15-6, 3.27 ERA. And Luke Weaver is their reliever and their save guy. He's 6-3 with a 2.93 ERA. Now, in saying that about the Yankees, they're going to have to go through their roster and see if they can come up with another starter or two, because Cortez will not be able to play. And one of them, I think, is Marcus Stroman, who I'm not a Marcus Stroman fan because I think he's kind of a punky guy, but he seems to start off good every year, and then he sort of tails off. Then he gets sour on himself, and he gets sour with everyone else. He just got a bad attitude. But I think, if they throw him in the rotation and say, "Hey, Marcus, it's time for you to shine. See what you can do," and they'll go with it. Now, on the other side of the card, when you're talking about hitting, you got the best player in baseball, which is Aaron Judge. He's hitting .323, 56 homers, 138 RBIs, 140, I think, by now. I did a couple of these stats 2 days ago. Juan Soto hitting .287, 40 homers, 104 RBIs. Gleyber Torres is hitting .254, 15 homers and 62 RBIs. Anthony Volpe, a nice little Italian boy from New Jersey, hitting .248, 12 homers, 59 RBIs. And Mike Stanton, well, I don't know why I got him in this league. He's hitting .235 with 26 homers and 68 RBIs. Strikes out about every year. A year, he strikes out. Some of the other players are going to have to pick it up, but from pitching standpoint, from the hitting standpoint, that's what we're seeing with the New York Yankees. Now, the team that they're battling, frankly, is a much better team. Baltimore Orioles. Corbin Burns, hits 15-8 with a 2.95 ERA. I'm pissed that Milwaukee let this guy get through. So where does he go? He goes right to the Orioles and had a chance to win it all. But then so does Milwaukee. Zach Eflin, 10-9 with a 3.53 ERA. Yadier Cano, 4-3 with a 2.79 ERA. He's a reliever.
Yeah.
Derek Hemmer, 7-16, 4.19 ERA. And Angel Suarez is 8-7 with a 3.74 ERA. He's a reliever. None of those pitchers outside of Elfin and Burns are going to carry the Orioles. It's Burns and Elfin and pray for rain. I'm trying to go again. The good part about Baltimore, is that they're young, and they have their hitters are just young and strong and bash the hell out of the ball. Gunnar Henderson, 283, 37 homers, 89 RBIs. Anthony Santander, 235, 43 homers, 99 RBIs. Eric Hauser, 244, 22 homers, 64 RBIs. Ryan Mountcastle, 245, 13 homers, 61 RBIs. And Adley Rauschmans, hitting 252, 14 homers and 99 RBIs. There's 77 RBIs. These are the guys that don't carry Baltimore. They sure as hell ain't going to beat pitching staff unless it's, despond and sane and pray for rain, which is, we used to say that years ago when they were playing real baseball. You got the Orioles, which is decent pitching, but they're going to win by hitting. I know I like to say, and you've heard me say it more than one time, is that you win these divisions and championships by pitching and defense. Boy, the Orioles have got a long road to hoe if they're going to do it that way. Sometimes these teams can pound their way to a pennant and keep pounding their way to a World Series. You know, you gotta give them credit. But let's go to the Houston Astros, who I prognosticated a long time ago that they were going to win their division. They have essentially the same team that they've had for the last 5 years. They're pitching sound, they're hitting a sound, play good defense. They're just a great ball club. And I'll explain what I think about the Astros. Pitching wise, you got Framber Valdez, 14-7, 2.85 ERA. Rafael Blanco, 12-6 with a 2.88 ERA. Hunter Brown, 11-9, 3.49 ERA. Oh, that's right. Stan Argetti, that's right. That's why I like that name. A good Italian boy. 7-13, he's got a 4.61 ERA. You got to have a Japanese guy in there, Yuri Kikuchi. He's 9-9 with a 4.19 ERA. I'm throwing Justin Verlander in here because he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But after coming off the injured reserve list, he has not pitched well at all. He's sitting here with a 4-win, 6-8 loss, and a 5.55 ERA. I can't remember. I've never remembered when Justin Verlander having that high of an ERA. He would have a win 10 and lose 8, but his ERA would be right around 2.5. I think it hasn't been there for him. Of course, we got Josh Hader, another guy that Milwaukee lost. He's 8-8 with a 3.15 ERA, and he needs to get a lot better, a lot better. Now, hitting-wise, they got Yordi Alvarez is hitting 308, 35 homers, 86 RBIs. Jose Altuve, Mary T's favorite player, hitting 295, 20 homers, 65 RBIs. He was hurt for most of the year, so he's coming back strong. Yadier Diaz, hitting 302, 16 homers, 84 RBIs. Alex Bregman, one of my favorite players, hitting 256, 25 homers, and 73 RBIs. He was hurt for a while, too. Jose Pena, hitting 270, 15 homers, 70 RBIs. And Jake Myers, hitting 220, 13 homers, and 61 RBIs. The Houston can beat you both ways. They can beat you hitting, and they can beat you pitching. So you'll see very shortly, especially when there's a short series. The first game is the first series is a best of 5, and if you got strong pitching, you're going to blow right through that. Okay, we go to Cleveland. One of my favorite players, Jose Ramirez, hitting 247, 37 homers, 112 RBIs. Every year, this guy puts up great numbers. He's always thought about as an MVP player. There's always someone better than him in this year. And it's like that with him. I don't understand it. I wish he would get a break because he truly is an MVP. Stephen Kwan, we've talked about him most of the year. He's at 291, 13 homers and 43 RBIs. He was hurt for more than half the year. Josh Naylor hitting 240, 31 homers, 105 RBIs. Andres Gimenez hitting 257, 9 homers, 63 RBIs. David Fry hitting 260, 14 homers, and 50 RBIs. Mark Brennan hitting 252, 8 homers, 30 RBIs. Don't think that they're going to go anywhere with this kind of hitting. There may be some other guys in the lineup that have to pinch hit, maybe make these guys a little bit better. Taylor Beebe's hitting. He's 11-8. He's got a 3.56 ERA. Brendan Lively, 13-9, 3.80 ERA. And their most valuable player, and quite possibly a Cy Young Award winner pitching is their closer, Emmanuel Place. This guy is not unhittable. He's 4-2 with an ERA of .63. That's .63. That's not 1.63. It's .63. And if there's a good chance that he could steal this one. I think Schoolbell's probably got it locked up now because Detroit is going to be in the series, but wouldn't be surprised if he got a lot of ropes. Emmanuel Place, unhittable. Niall Sandlin is 8-0, 3.86 ERA. Tim Heron is 5-1, 1.98 ERA. Corey Smith 6-1, 1.96 ERA. Those guys are closers, and the Guardians have got the closers. Let me tell you, with Emmanuel Place and the rest of these guys, Sandler and Heron and Smith, man, you play hell trying to get some runs away from the Guardians. My favorite team out of this section is the Kansas City Royals. I'm going to include them because they have one of the best players in baseball outside of Aaron Judge is Bobby Witt, sitting 335 with 32 homers and 108 RBIs. Salvatore Perez is hitting 271, 27 homers, 103 RBIs. Vinny Pasquantino hitting 262, 19 homers, 97 RBIs. A good Italian guy from New Jersey. And now Mikey Garcia is hitting 235 with 7 homers and 58 RBIs. Hunter Renfroe hitting 230 with 13 homers and 50 RBIs. And Tommy Pham is a guy that gets traded every year to a contender because he's a good hitter and he's a good player. Now he's playing for Kansas City. He's hitting 251, 9 homers, 30 RBIs. Now, where I think Kansas City is tough is on their pitching side. And you've heard me talk about Seth Lugo all year long. He was near the top in wins and ERA most of the year. He's 16-9 with a 3.03 ERA. Cole Wagons, another nasty guy, 11-9, 3.14 ERA. Michael Wacha used to be with the Cardinals, 13-8, 3.28 ERA. Brady Singer, Go Gators, 9-12, 3.73 ERA. That's a serious starting staff right there. Serious. But what puzzles me about Kansas City is they can't come up with a decent reliever. Their save guy is Justin MacArthur. He's 5-7 with a 4.92 ERA. Now, you're not going to save a lot of games with a 4.92 ERA. I don't know what Kansas City's problems are with that, but they better find out real closely. Let's get to Detroit, this is a feel-good story for all baseball fans. As we said, we very rarely ever talked about Detroit being a impetus in this particular situation. All we ever talked about was Screwball because he was leading the league in wins and ERA. Well, I think it's because of him, he's pulled the Tigers with him. And I'm not BSing about that. I'm serious about that. He's 18-4 with a 2.39 ERA. In a 5-game series, you're going to see him two times. You got Reese Olson, 4-8 with 3.49 ERA. AC Myers, 2-6 with a 4.36 ERA. Jason Foley is 3-6 with a 3.22 ERA. He's your closer. And Kenton Nadia was 3-6 with a 5.93 ERA. I don't know how Detroit's done it, but they got the best ERA in the American League, and it's all because of Terrace Screwball. And I think that they got a pretty good chance. If they can get by the first series, I don't know who they're going to play yet. If they can get by the first series, then they'll have to come up with some more pitchers. Okay, National League, Daniel.
Yeah.
Let me take a little break.
So, no, and I appreciate you giving your background and obviously putting all this work in that you put into to where things are at currently and throughout the entire season when PJ breaks it down for us. He lets us know who's hitting. He lets us know who's pitching well, not well, where the divisions are, where these teams are within those divisions, and what things look like. Speaking about the picture, there's only 2 divisions that are undecided. 4 of the 6 divisions in baseball have their champion. The Cleveland Guardians have won the National League or the American League Central. The Houston Astros, as Papa Joe correctly predicted when they were struggling in like their first 10 games, have won the American League West. The Philadelphia Phillies, although they had moments where their fans might have scratched their head, they had built themselves such a large lead in the first half of the season, and they've done more than enough to hold on to it. They've won the National League East. And the Milwaukee Brewers, shout out to MT, have won the National League Central. The only divisions that are still open are the American League East and the National League West. To take a look at the Yankees and the Orioles that are still trying to decide who's going to win that division, you might think it's the Yankees because the Yankees a few days ago were 6 games ahead, but this is what it looks like. The Yankees are in a head-to-head series with the Baltimore Orioles. The reason why the Yankees have not firmly, completely secured their win of the American League East is because versus the Orioles head-to-head, they are 0-2 in their current series. And these games, have been played in the Bronx. These are home games for the Yankees that they've lost. They're 0-2 against the Orioles in this current series. Game 3 is tonight, Thursday, September 26th at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. The Yankees will go on Friday, September 27th through Sunday, September 29th in a 3-game series against Pittsburgh, also at home. The Yankees are currently 4 games ahead of Baltimore, but they still haven't won the division. The Baltimore Orioles, what did you say, PJ?
There's 4 games left in the season. The Yankees will hang on.
So the Orioles, you what?
Yeah. What I'm more concerned about in the National League side is Atlanta and Arizona fighting it out.
Yeah, and getting
and them when I do my National League.
Yes, and the Orioles on their side of this series, 2-0 at the Yankees, as I stated currently. Their 3-game series that they will end the regular season with, Friday, September 27th to Sunday, September 29th, is going to be on the road at the Minnesota Twins, who have currently played their way. They're not mathematically out, but they've played themselves outside of the final wild card spot. They're 2 games behind the Kansas City Royals. Now, I do want to hit with San Diego, Arizona, and LA and tell you what their scenarios currently are. The Arizona Diamondbacks have lost 2 of 3 games to San Francisco. The Arizona Diamondbacks have hung tough against teams like the Dodgers. Their series against the Dodgers this year, they are 6-7. They have won games against really good teams, and they have struggled against teams who are struggling. The Arizona Diamondbacks, coming into the final 2 series of the regular season this season, had a series against a San Francisco team that is eliminated from the playoffs, and then a final series against San Diego. Arizona was not only in control of their own destiny and has been in control of their own destiny, but the Arizona Diamondbacks were in a position where if they swept San Francisco and the Dodgers were able to handle the Padres, Arizona could leapfrog San Diego in the 11th hour of the season and go from 6th to 4th in the standings and be the number 1 wild card team. But because the Arizona Diamondbacks have lost 2 of 3 against San Francisco, they've not only played their way down and put themselves in a position where they're barely hanging on, but they've now made themselves closer to the Braves, who are 1 game out of the wild card. The Arizona Diamondbacks absolutely have to win their final game against San Francisco, and then they have to play a 3-game series against San Diego. Both of these series are at home in Arizona. But Arizona has not hung tough against the Giants, and they will have to play very good ball against the San Diego Padres. The problem is, San Diego's been playing some of the best ball down the stretch. San Diego is 1-1 in their current series on the road in Los Angeles at the Dodgers Stadium. Game 3 against the Dodgers on the road is tonight for San Diego, September 26th at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time. The Padres are 3 games behind the Dodgers. The Padres are 3.5 games, the Diamondbacks are 3.5 games behind the Padres. So the Diamondbacks are in a place where they have played themselves out of their best case scenario. And the San Diego Padres are still within striking distance of the Dodgers. If they were to take this series 2-1, they would mathematically go into their series against the Diamondbacks still with an opportunity to win the division over the Los Angeles Dodgers in the NL West. And why do I say that? Because the Dodgers are 4-7 against the Padres this season. A win at home against the Padres tonight will still put the Dodgers behind the Padres in head-to-head play. So if both teams end with the exact same record, the San Diego Padres will leapfrog the Dodgers in the NL West and not only get out of the wild card, but will be in the top 2 spots. San Diego controls their destiny right now of having the opportunity to go from a team trying to make the wild card to a team that would oust the team that at certain points this season was the top team in the National League and at certain points this season had the best record in baseball in the Los Angeles Dodgers. If the Padres are to beat them tonight, and even if they lose to them, like I said, the Dodgers will not have the advantage in head-to-head. The best the Dodgers can be against the Padres this season is 5-7. So the Padres have already done what they needed to do head-to-head in the entire season. If the Padres win tonight and go 2-1 against the Dodgers, they are putting themselves in a place where they are 4th in the standings for the National League postseason of the 6 teams that get in. And they have a chance to get to the top 2, which means that the San Diego Padres that have been trailing the Dodgers all season long will have the opportunity to sit out the wild card and automatically move on to the next round. That's how good the Padres have it if the Padres take care of business. They will play tonight. They will play tonight against the Dodgers in their final game, and then the Dodgers will have to take care of one of the worst records in baseball in a 3-game series at the Colorado Rockies from September 27th through Sunday, September 29th. So the Dodgers absolutely have to win tonight, and they have to take care of Colorado. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres are very much alive. The Padres and the Dodgers have secured their playoff bid. Arizona has not secured themselves. They have to beat San Francisco, and they're going to have to beat one of the hottest teams in baseball. And at the time they see San Diego is playing for the division, not just a playoff spot, which they already have. So Arizona not taking care of San Francisco is now putting themselves in a situation where they have to play a better team that is hot, that is playing for a lot more than what Arizona's playing for. And the San Diego Padres are not the series you want to end the season, even though Arizona's going to be at home. The NL West, the AL East, very much alive. The Yankees can slam the door a lot easier than the Dodgers can, but it's making up for a fantastic last few days of baseball that will end this Sunday.
Well, I can explain everything a little bit better when these series are over. But there's only 4 games left in the year.
Yeah.
And if you win 2, you lose 2, you have 2. What they have to be prepared to is they're not looking in their own division. They're looking at someone else. They're looking at the Mets and Atlanta. They're all part of this deal too. Which is why I'm including everyone, because I think that they all have a chance to to be spoken to. The Dodgers, we probably thought that, and that's why I was so that they're the best team in baseball this year, led by the MVP, Ohtani, with a 301 average, 53 homers, 123 RBIs. He's probably got another homer or two on top of that. Mookie Betts hitting 295, hitting 19 homers, 73 RBIs. Now, Mookie was hurt for half of the year, coming on strong, and they need him here. Freddie Freeman hitting 283, 22 homers, 89 RBIs. Tio Hernandez, 267, 31 homers, 93 RBIs. You got Will Smith, the catcher, hitting 245 with 17 homers and 72 RBIs. Los Angeles lives and dies by these guys. The first 5 guys in the lineup. If they can't nail a pitcher, then they're in for a long, long, long night. Pitching wise, what can I say about Clayton Kershaw? He just isn't there. I don't know how they can pay these guys this kind of money for being on the injured reserve list so long. Clayton Kershaw hasn't pitched decently in 3 years. But I'm going to put him in there because he's at Los Angeles Dodgers. Jack Flaherty leads the staff with a 13-70 record, 3.10 ERA. Yoki Yamamoto, 6-2 with a 2.96 ERA. Ben Twyman, 7-3, 2.01 ERA. Matt Kepchik, 6-8, 3.62 ERA. Daniel Hudson is 6-7 with a 3.10 ERA. And another one of the stiffs who's been hurt for 2 years, Walker Buehler. I've been waiting for Walker Buehler for 2 years to throw baseballs the way I know Walker Buehler can do it. He's not. He's 1-6 with a 5.63 ERA. Are you kidding me? Dodgers, they may be the best team in the league right now, but that doesn't show me much. Philly, Bryce Harper hitting 285 with 29 homers, 86 RBIs. Kyle Schwarber, 250, 37 homers, 100 RBIs. Trey Turner, 297, 19 homers, and 59 RBIs. He got hurt for the year, too. He's starting to come back strong. Alec Bohm, big surprise this year, 286, 15 homers, 95 RBIs. Javier Castellanos, 250, 22 homers, and 85 RBIs. Bryson Stott is hitting 242 with 11 homers and 54 RBIs. Now, Philly will win with a bat and also win with a pitch because they have the best staff in the National League. Zach Wheeler is 16-7 with a 2.56 ERA. Carlos Sanchez is 11-9 with a 3.25 ERA. Aaron Nola is 13-8 with a 3.52 ERA. Ranger Suarez, 12-7 with a 3.15 ERA. And Carlos Estevez, 4-5 with a 2.33 ERA. He's their closer. That's who Philadelphia wins right there. Those 3 guys, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez, all year long have carried Philly on the pitching side, as well as Harper and Trey Turner and Schwarber on the hitting side. This is a very dangerous team. It could very well win the whole shooting match. Milwaukee Brewers, Wiley Adams had a good year this year, hit 250, 32 homers, and 110 RBIs. Jackson Chourio, we had a breakout year, 273, 21 homers, 79 RBIs. Joey Ortiz hitting 238, 11 homers, 53 RBIs. Reese Hopkins, which came from Philadelphia, I thought he would do a lot better. He's not. He's hitting 213 with 25 homers and 77 RBIs. Reese, you better pick it up. Bryce Torino is 254, 7 homers, 54 RBIs. And Sal Frelick, 259, 2 homers and 50 RBIs. The Brewers, I don't know how they did it. They did it with smoke and mirrors this year because I thought Chicago was going to just run through the division. But it shows you what the management staff has done there. I thought, and still do, that Craig Counsell was one of the best managers in baseball. And he carried Milwaukee with him for, 10 or 12 years. And I thought him leaving was going to hurt them. obviously not quite as much as he thought. Freddie Peralta is 11-8 with a 3.69 ERA. Carlos Ria, 12-5 with a 4.20 ERA. Alex Sidell, 7-9 with a 4.53 ERA. Jack Koenig, 9-4 with a 2.55 ERA. And Devin Williams is their closer. He's a big, tall, nasty guy. Got a nasty slider, overhand fastball. His record's only 1-0, but he's got a 1.37 ERA. So they're using him the way they've been using Hader for the last 5 years. I go to the Padres, who you justifiably so told everyone that they're pounding the hell out of the ball, and they are. Luis Arias, that came from Miami, is hitting 318, 4 homers, 44 RBIs. Jackson Merrill came up through he was playing college ball last year. 292, 24 homers, 89 RBIs. Jurgensen Profar, 285 with a 24 homers, 85 RBIs. Jake Cronenworth, 243, 16 homers, 78 RBIs. Manny Machado, big third baseman, 276, 29 homers, 104 RBIs. They do have a good pitching staff, led by Mike King with 3.04 ERA with a 12-9 record. Dylan Cease came over from the White Sox, 3.42 ERA, 14-11 record. Yu Darvish, 6-3 with a 3.18 ERA. Yoku Matsui, 4-2 with a 3.84 ERA. Joe Musgrave, one of my favorite pitchers, 6-5, 3.95 ERA. Martin Perez, 5-5 with a 4.25 ERA. And Ryan Suarez is 7-3 with a 2.71 ERA. That's their closer. They got a really solid pitching staff, and they got a hell of a hitting staff. So they're going to be a force. They're going to be a force. Now let's get to the Mets. Another incredible story.
Yeah.
Like Troy, the Mets were, me especially, I thought they were dead a month ago, 6 weeks ago. I would have never seen this coming. But here they are, led by Francisco Lindar, 271, 37 overs, 86 RBI. Now, he's still on the injured reserve list. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make it, but I hope he will. Pete Alonso hitting 242, 34 overs, 88 RBIs. Brandon Nemo's hitting 226, 22 homers, 87 RBIs. We got J.D. Martinez, 234, 16 homers and 69 RBIs. DeMarco Weto is 270, 26 overs and 68 RBIs. The Mets pounded the hell out all over the place. On the pitching side, they're led by Luis Severino, 11-7 with a 3.91 ERA. Now, he used to be with the Yankees. Sean Manania, 12-5 with a 3.29 ERA. Joe Quintones, 7-9, 10-9, 3.74 ERA. Doug Peterson, 11-9, 3.08. And their closer is Diaz, 5-4, 3.33 ERA. That's nothing. He's not going to scare anyone with an ERA like that. But the Mets have really come storming through it. And on the outside looking in is going to be along with Arizona, is the Atlanta Hawks. Who? What? 2 weeks ago, we thought that they were in, period. But they started leaking some oil, just like Minnesota. Atlanta, Marcell Ozuna got a chance for the Triple Crown. He's hitting 310, 39 homers, 102 ERA, or 102 RBIs. Matt Olson is 246, 29 homers, 98 RBIs. Orlando Arcia, 217, 17 homers and 46 RBIs. He was hurt for a while, too. Austin Riley, 256, is 19 homers and 56 RBIs. Michael Harris, overlooked guy. This guy never gets enough credit. 266 average, 16 homers, 48 RBIs. Plays a mean center field, too. Josh Kelenic, 229 average, 15 homers, 44 RBIs. However, that's not why Atlanta's going to go to the postseason, and that's why probably they're going to bury your Arizona boys. is because of Chris Sale. Whatever Tarek Screwball did for Detroit, Chris Sale has done for Atlanta. He's 18-3, 2.38 ERA. We're talking Cy Young Award winners here, fellas. There's no other one to talk about except for Emmanuel Place for Cleveland. But Sale wins it for the National League, Tarek Screwball in the American League. Sale is 18-3 with a 2.3 ERA. Max Fried, good solid pitcher, 10-10 with a 3.42 ERA. Charlie Morton, been around, 8-9, 4.08 ERA. I expected him to be a lot better. Reynoso Lopez, 8-7, 2.03 ERA. And their closer is Ray Iglesias, is 5-2 with a 1.76 ERA. Now I get to your boys.
Yeah.
Now I got to tell you what they got to do. All right. You know, I've always been a fan of Zach Gallen. I think he's a terrific young pitcher, and frankly, the way Arizona goes, or the way he goes, is the way Arizona's going to go. That's it. Case closed. He's 14-6 with a 3.65 ERA. In a short 5-game series, he's got to be able to win one and at least pitch again. These guys can pitch twice in a 5-game series. Nelson's at 10-6 with a 4.33 ERA. Brandon Flatt, which I don't know how to pronounce that. I never can. He's 10-10 with a 4.80 ERA. Good pitcher, solid pitcher. Now, a guy that I don't like to talk about because I whooped at him so early years ago, Jordan Montgomery is only 8-7. His ERA is 6.23. Let me say that again. 6.23.
Yeah.
This guy is being paid $25 million for 3 years, and this is how he's pitching. Can't do it. Paul Sewell, 1-2 with a 4.31 ERA. He's supposed to be their closer. I don't like it anyway. Now where Arizona really shines is on the offensive side of the ball. Marte is a super player. He's hitting .294, 35 homers, 93 RBIs. He's just a beast. Difficult. And they've been leading him off, which is a good idea. Suarez is hitting .253 with 29 homers and 98 RBIs. Corbin Carroll got off his ass, started hitting a little bit better. He's hitting .232, 21 homers and 73 RBIs. You remember a couple of months ago, this guy was below the Mendoza line. So he has probably hit the ball over 300 just to get to .232. That's a feather in his cap. Lourdes Gurriel, .277 average, 16 homers, 73 RBIs. Walker, another good player, .252 average, 26 homers, 84 RBIs. Jock Pederson, who came over from the Dodgers, .278, 23 homers, and 64 RBIs. Daniel, these guys still got to win, but they got to watch what Atlanta's going to do. And they got to watch what the Mets are going to do. No one, these are moving parts.
Yeah.
It's a good time of the year, but it's also heart-wrenching for the guys who just don't make it. And then we always have to talk about the Chicago White Sox and what they actually tried to do and play baseball this year.
Yeah. And, taking a look at this and seeing this, to go off of everything that I said and to everything that you said as well, PJ, this morning about where these races are, the fact that 2 divisions are still open in the AL East with the Yankees and the Orioles and the NL West with the Dodgers and the Padres, those teams have clinched playoff berths, but neither division has been clinched. When we speak on Arizona, like you said, the Mets and the Braves have to be talked about. To give some background about where things are right now, the Mets and the Braves were playing in a series against each other. But because rain liked to happen all day long for the last couple days, the Braves and the Mets are postponing their series. Now, the Braves won Game 1. the last 2 games of the series have been moved to after the series they were supposed to have to follow. The Mets and the Braves will be playing on Monday, September 30th. With the season wrapping up on September 29th and all these series that I talked to you about done by Sunday, September 29th, the Mets and the Braves, depending on how things go with the Diamondbacks, depending on how things go with the Mets in their upcoming series at Milwaukee from Friday to Sunday, depending on how things go with the Braves in a 3-game series at home against Kansas City, Monday, September 30th, the world may be watching that doubleheader between the Braves and the Mets, which is in Atlanta. The Braves won Game 1, like I said, last 2 games postponed to Monday, September 30th. The first game's around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The second game to follow a little bit after 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The Mets are 3-1 versus the Phillies in their most recent series, a team that just won the division. So the Mets are coming in hot, and they did not allow the Phillies to clinch the division in their series. They clinched it after. Mets 3-1 in their last 4 games against the Phillies. And then Atlanta, think about this. Atlanta has either won or tied a series in every series they've been in since September 3rd. The last series that they officially lost ended on September 1st. But the Atlanta Braves have either tied or won a series in every series they played from September 3rd to now. And they're currently winning the series against the Mets head-to-head. The Mets have that 3-1 against Philadelphia, but it all could come down to Monday, September 30th. The Arizona Diamondbacks are hoping that it doesn't. Arizona right now is in a position, again, where they have control of their own destiny. Arizona is currently in 6th. The Mets are in 5th. But Arizona and the Mets are tied. The Mets own the tiebreaker over Arizona because of head-to-head play, and the Arizona Diamondbacks are ahead of the Braves by 1 game. So that series between the Mets and the Braves could be both of them playing to secure themselves in, or it could be which one's going to get in because Arizona took care of business. The Mets currently down to Atlanta in that series, 1-0. And because of the rain up here in New York, we will see a Monday doubleheader on the last day of September that will officially declare, potentially, who is going to lock in this final piece. So Arizona is right there in lockstep with the Mets and a little bit above the Braves. What the Braves do in their series at home and what the Mets do on the road and what Arizona does is going to decide these final 2 spots of the National League and who makes it in the wild card as the 5th seed, as the 6th seed, and which team is left watching. So, folks, you can thank the rain because Monday is going to give us potentially a spotlight series that feels like a play-in, even though they don't have play-ins anymore. That doubleheader on Monday, September 30th in Atlanta could very much be a play-in. And Arizona, well, they don't want to have to wait until Monday to find out what's going to happen to them. It's all setting up to be something special, PJ, and thanks to some precipitation, we know that Monday is going to extend the regular season and give more nail-biters, potentially, to a few teams out there.
I love it. Now, for people that have been listening to me for all year long, I specifically use one site for everything, and that's the ESPN. I don't deal with anyone else. I don't want to go anywhere else. They have a very, very good system, and all you got to do is just follow the prompts, go wherever you want to go, standings, stats, teams, whatever, and you'll be right on top of everything. The problems I have with what you're talking about is in American League, the Kansas City Royals are 87 or 86% chance to get in the playoffs. Well, I've already put them in there. Detroit Tigers, 91% chance to get in the playoffs. and the Minnesota Twins are 22%. Now, Minnesota has played their way out of this whole thing. Okay, so we can most assuredly say that Kansas City and Detroit are going to be there. In New York, Baltimore, those three guys, okay. Now, in the National League, all year long, I was saying the Braves and the Phillies are going to carry on. Well, then along comes the Mets to screw things up, and look what's happened. The Mets have a 78% chance of getting in the playoffs. The Atlanta Braves are 60% chance to get in the playoffs. Now, where you guys are leaking a little oil is that I had these three teams 2 months ago. I had these three teams in the playoffs: the Dodgers, the Padres, and Arizona. Because Arizona has been leaking more oil than Minnesota because they only have a 62% chance of getting in the playoffs. Now, which makes it even more important for them to win or at least get 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, whatever they have to do against the Giants. The Giants are no pushover either. So, they'll be looking over everyone's shoulder. They'll all be looking over everyone's shoulder. But, what the good part about it is that I'm going to be – we're going through a hurricane, of course. I'm going to be sitting on my butt in front of the TV, and I'm going to watch that doubleheader because I think that's where it's all going to come down. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, a lot of great stuff coming up. PJ, I will handle college football and the NFL for us today as you're going to go back and rest and take a break. But I want to thank you for coming here and breaking down baseball. Folks, the reality of it all is there are some teams mathematically still involved, but the names that you need to know of these last few games of the season: Diamondbacks, Padres, Yankees, Orioles, Dodgers, Mets, Braves. And congratulations to the Cleveland Guardians, the Houston Astros, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Milwaukee Brewers for not having to make their fans sit through heart-pounding moments for the next couple days. PJ, as always, I appreciate you. I send you, MT, Joey, and the fam my love, and I hope you get better soon, and I hope I get to see you soon.
I'm a hurting gator.
You'll be all right. Go Gators. I'll talk with you soon. Love you, PJ.
All right, BJ.
See you. So that coming from Papa Joe once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're going to take a step aside here. And, yeah, coming off of this, the D-backs are in a pickle. They are in a pickle. They're in a very tough spot. They're tied with the Mets, but the Mets hold the head-to-head. So the Mets winning hurts the Diamondbacks' seeding. But the Braves winning and Diamondbacks losing can hurt the Diamondbacks even getting in. This is why you got to take care of business before the last 4 games of the season. So we shall see. We'll take a step aside for a fast break, and we'll be back with plenty more about college football and the NFL right after this. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There was a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There was a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machine, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machine. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942. And tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And I'm so happy to be hanging out with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, we started a little bit back today, and we're going to make that up here on the back end because we promised you 2 hours. You're going to get 2 hours. So PJ and I typically go through the recap of college football and the NFL together, but because he's been under the weather, he was kind enough and just braved through it to join us for baseball and to truly break it down and give us a ton of information. By the way, that piece that we did, that segment with Papa Joe, is going to be available right after the show for you to be able to go and listen to as its own broadcast. It's going to be on all of our channels. There's so many shows, I think over 1,800 episodes you can now get on Podbean alone, but you can go to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and all you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or Wake Up Call DT, and you'll find a growing library that's constantly being added to throughout the year of our broadcasts, and we take full shows and break them down into pieces, into segments. So you could just listen to PJ and I talk about Major League Baseball. You can just listen to my thoughts on not having any parameters around NIL and the transfer portal, or having some, but it's not good enough. So you can go back and go right into those stories and that information. You can also ask Alexa and your Google Home devices to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they'll do that for you as well. So thank you to all the companies, and thank you for your support. With that being said, college football week 4, this is who PJ picked, and this is who I picked, and this is how it went down. We were wrong about Syracuse losing to Stanford 26-24. Of course, I was at the game by the grace of God, and many thanks to Syracuse for giving me an opportunity over a decade ago of being a self-sustaining company that wasn't pre-existing, that was on the internet when they weren't really credentialing people from the internet. And they made an example out of me, and we're over 10 years later. So I thank God for opening the door, and I thank the people at Syracuse for helping that to happen as well. And I just want to let kids know everywhere and adults know everywhere, no matter what your age is, if you have a dream, chase it. If there's something you truly believe in, that you feel in your heart that you can do and you want to do, then believe in it, and all good things will come to you. And to be completely honest, you always get more than you could ask for when you follow God and you chase your dreams and you have the courage to go out there and do the things that matter to you. So God bless to you all, and keep chasing those dreams, okay? Because you can get it done. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, in the recap of college football week 4, PJ and I got Syracuse wrong. We had Nebraska over Illinois in a home game of two top 25 ranked teams. Nebraska lost in overtime. So we got that one wrong as well. How dare you, Nebraska? And then Clemson in their matchup, they blew out NC State. And then NC State, obviously scored some points, but Clemson was way ahead of this game early on. They won 59-35. Since Clemson got blown out by Georgia at the neutral field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, Georgia, since that game, all Clemson has done is blown out their opponents. So Clemson losing 34-3, then played App State at home and won 66-20. And App State's no slouch because they play spoiler, and they won in a very close game by a couple points over East Carolina, who's been having a good season under Mike Houston. And then, so after beating App State by 46 points, they beat NC State 59-35. Speaking of the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney. And just to look at this game and how out of hand it was, at halftime it was 45-7. So then obviously you don't go crazy on the gas pedal and score 90 points, and NC State scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, making the game look, a little bit better, but the game was more than out of hand early on. So Clemson is a game that PJ and I both got correct. PJ picked the Go Gators, and I picked Mississippi State in their matchup here. And, thinking to myself, it's Mississippi State at home. The Gators have struggled. For PJ's sake, I wanted to see the Gators win and stop the bleeding. And to the credit of the Florida Go Gators, to see what they did in this matchup and how they handled this matchup, when we look back on this week for Florida, you got to give credit where credit is due, and ultimately they got the win 45-28, holding on. So PJ got that one right. I got that one wrong. And then West Virginia, we had West Virginia in their matchup getting a dub at home against Kansas, which they did 32-28 in a close game inside of the Big 12. Still weird to think about West Virginia in the Big 12 because to me they'll always be a Big East team. And then looking at the Virginia Cavaliers, Tony Elliott coming under scrutiny, the former offensive coordinator under Dabo Swinney at Clemson, first head coaching opportunity, Virginia Cavaliers, and, people just kind of thinking about him being on the hot seat, and is he going to be able to stay there, and will they fire him at the end of the season? Will they fire him during the season? And just, hearing all that noise, well, they go on the road to Coastal Carolina, who's not an easy team to play. Again, like App State in the Sun Belt, they play spoiler to teams. They play spoiler sometimes to each other, and they play spoiler out of conference. And Coastal Carolina, they're at home, loses to Virginia 43-24. So shout out to Tony Elliott, who's had a good couple weeks here and hopefully securing his job here. And then USC that we had in their matchup going back and looking at USC at Michigan, Michigan was able to win this game by a field goal, 27-24. So PJ and I got that wrong. In the debut of USC in the Big Ten from the Pac-12, they don't get the victory. And obviously I gave flowers to Michigan earlier on in the week that they absolutely have earned the right to have. And then seeing Louisville at home against Georgia Tech. Louisville won this game 31-19. They're having a good season. Some people are talking about them. Some people may not be. But Louisville's a team that you got to keep that team on your radar is all I'm going to say. So taking a look, and I put Utah here. I don't know why I did fill out the U and the T, but Oklahoma State went up against Utah. Utah was on the road. Utah won that game 22-19 for both ranked teams. I had Utah, PJ had Oklahoma State, so I got that one correct. Then I had Cal, PJ had FSU. I thought Cal could get this win. Very close game. Cal had a couple opportunities down the stretch, but they just could not score the ball. And ultimately, Florida State gets a victory and stops their bleeding for the moment here, as they have had a tough road. They got their first win of the season and first win in ACC play this season when they went up against Cal to get that victory. So, a good thing for Florida State, but Cal, like I said, going into the season, I said, folks, pay attention because they might have a better season than people are giving them credit for. They might be a better team than you think they are. And I think that Cal has absolutely shown that they're a better team than maybe they're getting any credit for, any publicity for. And so I just feel like they shouldn't be overlooked, in my opinion. And, hopefully, I guess for them, they probably like being overlooked and like teams to not pay attention to what they're capable of. But, they to me have had themselves a nice start to the season. They were undefeated. So they came in 3-0. Florida State came in 0-3. And for the first ever game for Cal as a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference, they lose this game closely on the road in Tallahassee, 14-9 for Justin Wilcox and the crew. Florida State's first win, Cal's first loss. So just keep in mind that Cal's halfway to becoming bowl eligible already. And then South Florida, PJ and I both picked South Florida to win their matchup. And USF has had themselves a good start to the season. They've done some good things. And I've talked about, what they're capable of. In this game, Miami just blew the doors open, and Miami traveling a little bit up because, South Florida is where you'll find the South Florida Bulls. It's also where you'll find, in Southern Florida, the Miami Hurricanes. Well, Miami came up the coast, and hopefully that's the only thing coming up the coast, and the actual Hurricanes will stay away from people and stay away from property. And by the grace of God, people from Hurricane Helene and anything else going on, that people will be safe and sound and healthy and well, and hopefully their homes and their properties and their businesses will be okay. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. If you'll oblige me for a moment, because there's bigger things than sports going on. God, please help for everyone who is in the path of any of this bad weather or has anything going on of adversity of any kind, either by their own hand or by the hand of something they can't control. Please help for us all, God, to be protected by you. Please guide us toward you. Please guard us from what is not you. Help us to be like you and to trust in you, even if it's something we've never did. I hope our hearts and our minds, our souls and our bodies can open up to you, God, and open up to your love and to trust you and trust your guidance. May we all heal completely and for good. May we heal no matter what through you and handle well whatever comes our way, including the hurricane and anything else going on, a cold, cancer, coronavirus, whatever's going on in our lives, heartbreak, somebody passing away. May our loved ones always be with us, including those that have passed on, because dying, Jesus destroyed our death, and rising, he restored our life. And may we all be safe and sound and healthy and happy. And may we be filled with all of your most precious gifts to do your will and be well. And may we focus on your will even above, ourselves. And may everything work out. May today, tonight, and so on be long and fun and go by slowly in a good way, whether we're traveling, staying put, or both. May we be well and stay well, and may we just have a beautiful life. So please protect us, guide us, guard us, and help us to be the best version of ourselves. And may today be the best day of our lives. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and may tomorrow be even better. Amen. God bless. So with that being said here, the Miami Hurricanes came up that coast and took care of the Bulls that are not too far away, 50-15. Not a great game for South Florida, who's had a good season last season in the first season of Alex Golesh being a head coach in college football, and played a good game last year against Alabama in South Florida, and a good game in Tuscaloosa against Alabama this season. It was a one-possession game all the way up until the last 7 minutes of the fourth quarter. So good work for them. South Florida just struggled against Miami. Could be smoke and mirrors for Miami here, or they could be for real. You know, that time is left to see. When Mark Richt was there for a couple seasons, there was the thought that Miami was a pretty darn good team, and then they just kind of fumbled out of the season. And you look at under Mario Cristobal, we're waiting to see, like, are the Hurricanes going to really break out to be that team? So it's left up to the question mark. I don't know if this win over South Florida, that, you know, they won by 35. I don't know if you can circle this and go, hey, Miami's for real. I definitely want to see more from Miami, but credit them with the victory. Tennessee at Oklahoma. Tennessee wins the game on the road for Oklahoma, and I believe Oklahoma's debut in the SEC. So Oklahoma's now 3-1, and yes, that was their debut in the SEC, losing at home to the Tennessee Volunteers. So PJ and I got that one correct. So that means PJ was 3-2. Let's see here. 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, 6-4, 6-5, 7-5. So PJ went 7-5. Let me make sure I'm right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So 7-5 for PJ, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went 6-6 in week 4 of college football in the 2024-25 season. I went 6-6, and PJ went 7-5. So I'm just going to jot this down here. So that means that PJ has gone 4-7, 8-2, 7-5, and 7-5, giving Papa Joe an overall record of 26-19 in 4 weeks of predicting college football in the 2024-25 season. I've gone 6-5, 8-2, 7-5, and 6-6, which means that my overall record this season is 27-18 for my college football pick. So as long as we're above 500, baby, you want to be as many games as you can be, but to be above 500 is good stuff. Well, PJ's not going to be doing picks with me this week. I'll be doing my college football week 5 picks, so I'm going to hop right into it. For college football week 5, the games I'm going to be picking, there is a game tonight, Thursday, September 26th, the only game on television, and the only game being played in FBS, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Army will play at Temple, and it's going to be in Philadelphia. The Temple Owls are 1-3 this season. They lost at Oklahoma in a blowout. They lost at Navy, and they have lost to Coastal Carolina. They defeated Utah State, which was a big win for them, with a team that is currently in the Mountain West but will be in the new look Pac-12, and they beat them at home 45-29. After playing Army, after playing Navy, now they have to play Army. Army and Navy are the only teams, a bunch of teams in the conference haven't played a game yet, but of the teams that did in the American Athletic Conference, Memphis is 0-1, FAU is 0-1, Rice is 0-1, Temple's 0-1. Army and Navy are both 2-0, and I believe that Army is going to stay undefeated here, so I am going to go with Army over Temple here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Army this week in their first season inside of the AAC in as a member of the American. So big ups to them for that. On Friday night football, we have Washington at Rutgers, and we have Virginia Tech at Miami. Is Miami for real? Well, Virginia Tech was one of those teams that I thought could be a top 5 team in the ACC, and I think other people thought that they'd be pretty darn good as well. They're 2-2 this season. They lost at Vanderbilt by a touchdown. Then they defeated Marshall. They won at Old Dominion, who's another team that can play spoiler inside of the Sun Belt. And they lost to Rutgers by 3 points. So in their 2 losses, it's been by a combined 10 points and 1 possession in each of those games. So is Virginia Tech really that bad? No. Is Miami really that good? We'll see. I think Virginia Tech is going to play a good game, but ultimately, I'm going to go with the Miami Hurricanes to get the victory. So I'm going with Miami here. Washington's having their debut in the Big Ten, and so the Washington Huskies here, taking a look at them, the Washington Huskies on the road at Rutgers. This season they are 3-1, and pardon me, they already played Northwestern, so they already had their first Big Ten game. This is their second Big Ten game, but Washington's going to be on the road at Rutgers. Rutgers this season is 3-0. They defeated Howard at home, Akron at home, and at Virginia Tech, as I just mentioned. So in the second coming of Greg Schiano, are they for real? I think there's some good things happening at Rutgers, but I'm going to pick the Washington Huskies to get the victory here in this matchup on the road in Friday Night Football in the Big Ten. Then we head to Saturday, Kentucky at Ole Miss. Can Kentucky slow down the Lane train? We know that they came within a point of Georgia, and then they lost a game to South Carolina. Kentucky's been an enigma. Ole Miss and the Lane train, they have been dangerous, and I'm going with Ole Miss to keep it going, and I believe that they have a shot at the college football playoff this year. Speaking of the Ole Miss squad, the Rebels there that have started off the season 4-0, beating Furman at home, Middle Tennessee at home, at Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. So this will be a test for them, arguably the biggest test that they've had all season. We'll see how they do with it. I think they're going to get a victory. Next game, Oklahoma State at Kansas State. Oklahoma State just lost to Utah, a game that I had picked Utah to win. And on the other side of this matchup, the Kansas State Wildcats are 3-1. They beat UT Martin. They beat Tulane down the stretch by just 7 points. Tulane having John Summerall in his first season with the Green Wave after Willie Fritz brought them to a lot of success. How did Kansas State win this game? They had the last 2 scores of the game. They were down 27-20. They tied the game with 11:20 left to go, and then they won the game with 8:13 left on a 60-yard fumble return, a defensive touchdown, won the game. It says a lot about Tulane and their ability, and it says something about Kansas State's ability to respond. And they also defeated Arizona, who was ranked at the time, blew them out at home for Kansas State 31-7, and they lost to BYU 38 to I believe it was 38-9 in that matchup that they lost there. So, yeah, 38-9. So this game, Oklahoma State at Kansas State, I'm gonna have to go OK State in this one. I think Oklahoma is going to do enough to get the victory here. So I'm going to give the nod on the road to OK State for getting the victory. Next game we're going to go to here in my college football predictions for Week 5 of the 2024-25 season is I'm going to have to go to the BYU at Baylor game. So Baylor just lost to Colorado. BYU, they're 4-0, their second season in the Big 12. They defeated Southern Illinois, the Salukis. They defeated SMU, which is now in the ACC. They defeated Wyoming, and they defeated Kansas State, which was a Big 12 game. So they played one Big 12 game, that 38-9 win at home when Kansas State was ranked 13th in the nation. So now they're playing at Baylor. The Baylor Bears, they're 2-2 this season, haven't had a great start to their season. They defeated Tarleton State. They lost to Utah, who is now in their conference. Of the Big 12, they defeated Air Force, and then they lost to Colorado in overtime. So in Colorado's return to the Big 12. So I'm going to have to go with BYU in this one over Baylor to get the victory. Next game that we're going to do is going to be, as we go down the line here, I'm looking at some of these games. So South Florida at Tulane. Tickets are as low as $2. I don't know what maniac made that possible, but if you can go to that game for $2, go to that game for $2. I would go to that. I'd buy a whole row of seats. I'd buy a whole section for myself. South Florida at Tulane. South Florida's done some good things even if the record hasn't shown it. Tulane's done some good things even if the record hasn't shown it. I'm going to give the slight edge to the home team, and I'm going to give it to Tulane in this matchup. Next game that we have up here, Wisconsin at USC. Do I think that unranked Wisconsin will trip up USC after USC lost to Michigan? No, I think USC has something to prove in their entrance into the Big Ten, and I think USC is going to take care of business at home, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. They beat LSU in a home game, and LSU was ranked 13th at the time in the country. They beat Utah State, and they just lost to Michigan. This will be their 4th game of the season, and it could be a trip-em game for USC, but I'm going to pick them to win it. Louisville at Notre Dame. This is a big-time game. Louisville has had a good season, and like I said, they still might be flying under the radar of some. Notre Dame defeated Texas A&M on the road when Texas A&M was 20th in the country. That was a big victory. They lost to Northern Illinois 16-14 at home in South Bend. They beat Purdue 66-7, and they beat Miami of Ohio 66-3. But now they're playing those games where Notre Dame's not an ACC team when it comes to football, but they're kind of an ACC team in a way. So how is this game going to go? And you saw Jerry just say go for Notre Dame. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing at home against the Louisville Cardinals, and Louisville this season also ranked in the top. They're number 15 in the country. They're 3-0. They beat Austin Peay, Jacksonville State, and Georgia Tech. Don't slouch on Jacksonville State because they went into FSU and beat them in recent history and almost beat them 2 years in a row. So in both of those games in Tallahassee. This is going to be a big-time test for the Louisville Cardinals, and I think that if the Northern Illinois Huskies can come in there and get a victory, then I think we're going to see a victory from the Louisville Cardinals, and I think they're flying under the radar, pun fully intended, for the Cardinals. I think Louisville is going to get the victory here. So I'm sorry, Jerry, but I'm picking Louisville in the game. Next game that we have up here to see where these teams are stacked up against each other. Here's a big-time game that I'm excited about. Colorado, right? Colorado, they're 3-1. They lost that game at Nebraska 28-10, and people were ready to throw this team on a steak, and they were ready to put them on the grill and cook them. That's what we're talking about here. They were done with Deion Sanders. It's over. Blah, 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 blah. The team's 3-1, halfway to another bowl berth, and they're in a position right now where they just beat Baylor in overtime 38-31 in a fantastic game. How's UCF doing? UCF is 3-0, and UCF has wins against New Hampshire, Sam Houston, but they got a 1-point win on the road, 35-34, in a great game against TCU. So a big win against Baylor in overtime for Colorado, a big win for UCF down the stretch against TCU. So these are two teams that play spoiler, but somebody's going to come through with a victory because you can't tie in college football, thank goodness. So Colorado at UCF. Who do I have for this one? This is a really tough game, folks, but I'm going to give a slight edge to the home team, and I'm going to give it to UCF to pull off a victory here against Colorado. But you can be sure that I'll be watching that game after I'm at the Dome for Syracuse and Holy Cross, and that is a game we're going to get to, so don't think I forgot about it. I did not. North Carolina is playing Duke, and Mac Brown and the Carolina team, they're 3-1, but people are ready to fire Mac Brown, and they just lost to James Madison 70-50 in a basketball game. They beat Minnesota at Minnesota against the Big Ten 19-17 thanks to a made field goal by them and a missed field goal by Minnesota. They beat Charlotte 38-20 at home and NC Central at home. They're going to play another, and then they play James Madison at home. They're playing all these teams based in North Carolina, and Duke is as well, but they got to go to Tobacco Road, face off against Duke. And so when they take on the Dukies in Durham, we'll have the opportunity to see what happens in this matchup. I know that a lot of people look at this basketball-wise and think that there's a lot more value on the basketball side of things, but Manny Diaz is on the other side of it now. He is the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils, and Duke comes into this game 2 games away of being bowl eligible. They're 4-0. They beat Elon at Northwestern, UConn, and Middle Tennessee State. Now they have that game at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2 against their rival North Carolina, and I don't care what anybody says, that's their rival in every single sport. So in my opinion here, as we take a look at this matchup between these two teams, you got a Manny Diaz Duke team that I told you to not look over this season. I got a lot of respect for Manny Diaz. And North Carolina, well, North Carolina, to me, I think they're going to take a loss here on the road, and I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils to pull off a victory at home, with Manny Diaz getting to 5-0. And then maybe people will start talking a little bit more about Duke inside of the wide open ACC. Mississippi State is going to go on the road to number 1 Texas. Do I think Texas is going to trip up? I think it might be closer than you want it to be at times, but I think Texas eventually pulls away, and I'm going with Texas to get another win in this matchup. Going on from there, we have Stanford at Clemson. Stanford elected to go home the night, so they came in, I think, on Wednesday to Syracuse, New York, my hometown, played Syracuse on Friday night, and then flew out Friday night past midnight. So technically they flew out Saturday morning, and they left here and went back to California, back to the West Coast, and are now back on the East Coast against Clemson. Clemson has been another team people want to write off. They're 2-1, but like I said, they got blowout victories after getting blown out. And Georgia, they're a pretty good team. So I think maybe, they cut some slack for Michigan when they lost to Texas, didn't cut as much slack for Clemson when they lost to Georgia. Why is that? Because Michigan is in the Big Ten and Clemson's in the ACC. So Clemson not getting as much of a unfair advantage that the Big Ten gets, but Clemson has Stanford at home. What do I think about this one? I think Stanford did some good things. I think Ashton Daniels is a quarterback to watch, and I think that Clemson and Stanford can make this game really interesting. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to pick Stanford. I could be very wrong, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and pick Stanford. I think they got some good things going for them, and they shouldn't be overlooked. And next game that we have up here, Georgia at Alabama. How the heck did we get this game in the 5th week? This is like CNS going up against CBA in week 2 of Central New York football here in high school. How do we get these rivalry games so early? Well, Georgia at Alabama. Alabama, they got something to prove. They're 3-0, but people are sitting here going, yeah, that game was close against South Florida until 7 minutes left. They played at Wisconsin, and I don't consider Wisconsin as much as a factor as maybe some other people do nationally. And then Western Kentucky, they got that win in the first week of the season. Now they got to play the Georgia Bulldogs. And the Georgia Bulldogs, well, they've had themselves this start to theirs. They're also 3-0 in this season. They've defeated Clemson in a blowout, Tennessee Tech in a blowout, and in a baseball game, they beat Kentucky on the road 13-12. So who do I think is going to win this game? I'm going with Georgia. I got to go with them dogs. So I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs to get the win here in this matchup. I would imagine that is where we're going to see College Game Day. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and imagine that College Game Day is going to be out there. And yeah, so I mean that's where I would think they're going to be. So that's a massive game, obviously, and I'm excited to watch that game as well. The game for Georgia at Alabama, that game is going to be played this Saturday, and it is going to be coming to you. Georgia at Alabama will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN in Tuscaloosa. Illinois at Penn State. Do I think that Illinois has got a fighting chance against Penn State? Well, the Fighting Illini, I do. Fighting is in their name. They're 4-0. They beat Eastern Illinois. They beat a ranked Kansas team who I thought was probably ranked probably too high, but they beat a 19th ranked Kansas team in week 2 at home. They beat Central Michigan. First road game was at Nebraska. They beat them 31-24. On the other side of this matchup, we're taking a look at Penn State. Penn State is 3-0 this season. Penn State won at West Virginia. They beat Bowling Green barely by a touchdown, and they beat Kent State 56-0. So I do think the Fighting Illini are going to trip them here at Penn State. I think they're going to make this game interesting. I think it's going to go to overtime, but I'm going to give Penn State the slight edge to win the matchup. Couple more games here before we take a step aside and get into the NFL. Taking a look at, there's a bunch of good games that are happening this week. It's nice because now that we get deeper into the season, it's like, okay, now we got some stuff to watch. Arizona was ranked. Now they're unranked. They have a terrific wide receiver in Tataroa McMillan, and they're going up against Utah in Utah at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN, and I think the Utes are going to keep rolling. I'm low-key, like, really big on Utah this year, so maybe high-key because, you know, I picked them to win. And I picked them to win this past week against Oklahoma State in their entrance into, you know, them being inside of the Big 12 and not the Pac-12 anymore. And so kind of interesting how Utah State's in the future of the Pac-12. Utah is no longer in the Pac-12. Weird how that went down. Holy Cross at Syracuse. I'll be at this game noon Eastern time by the grace of God. It's on ESPN Plus and ACC Extra. And so you'll have to stream it, essentially, on ACC Extra. Holy Cross at Syracuse, noon Eastern time this Saturday. And the Matt Sluka, the former quarterback of Holy Cross that helped to get them into the FCS postseason, he has decided to not play for UNLV anymore amidst NIL and all that great stuff. And the free agency where you can declare yourself a free agent, declare yourself a red shirt. Just crazy stuff happening in college football. So interesting how Syracuse plays Holy Cross, Matt Sluka's old team, and then their first road game is going to be against UNLV out on the western part of the United States at Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Raiders, and Matt Sluka's not going to be there. So it's kind of weird how that's all connected, but sports is very interconnected. Holy Cross at Syracuse. I am going to go ahead and pick Syracuse to win this game, but Syracuse can definitely not let anything from this past week linger with them in a 2-point loss. If they let it linger, then this could come and bite them in the butt, or could make this game a not great game to start off. They have to treat the Crusaders as if this is the only game of the season that matters, and I trust that Fran Brown will have them ready. And Syracuse getting the win over Holy Cross. And another small world is that Bob Chesney was in the running to be the head coach of the Syracuse Orange before Fran Brown got the job. Bob Chesney's last post, Holy Cross. So just funny how that all shakes out. And we will see how the NFL shakes out in my predictions here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take a look back at what PJ and I had for the NFL Week 3. What games do we get right? What games do we have wrong? And where do we go from here as well? So, and that where do we go from here? My picks for NFL Week 4 are coming up right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Find GG Cards and Breaks Tuesday through Saturday, open for you from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. They have hockey, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, all sport, AEW, UFC, while supplies last. They also have Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering while supplies last. Graded cards, singles, packs, boxes. You can buy a pack, buy a box, buy a bunch of packs, a bunch of boxes, buy a mixture of both, and test your luck and see what you can get within those. Or you can go and grab one of the cards that's in their display case or in their Major League Baseball, NFL, and NBA boxes. They're the only place that I know that has every MLB, every NBA, and every NFL team. They go through an extreme amount of effort and time to put those boxes together for you, and I appreciate them so much for that. Going the extra mile, going the extra 10 miles, that's what GG Cards and Breaks is all about, and that's why I respect and appreciate them. It starts at the top with Josh and Anthony, and it trickles from there. Much thanks to the wonderful people over there at GG Cards and Breaks. Visit them today. Let them know that DT sent you. Thank you to Phil for going in recently. Appreciate you, man. And 639 Delmar Place, Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave, around the corner from the best bakery in the world, Lincourt Bakery. And, of course, GG Cards and Breaks open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. With that being said, it's time to jump into our NFL recap and see how PJ and I did in the NFL Week 3 situation. So it's up on your screen, and for those of you that are listening, I'll run you through it here so you know what we had right and what we didn't. So let's take a look at the NFL schedule. PJ and I both went with the Jets, the New York Football Jets. I know I feel like Giants fans get mad when I say that because it's the New York Football Giants. My apologies, not trying to upset. So we went with the Jets on Thursday Night Football, got that right. We went with the Cleveland Browns, weird game against the Giants. Giants got that victory on the road, so PJ and I got that wrong. And then we went with Tennessee, who lost to Green Bay at home. I don't know why I picked Tennessee, because I've said repeatedly that I don't believe in them this season. I'm not seeing that they're going to have a successful season. I think Tennessee's really going to struggle. Jacksonville has struggled, and it's like Jacksonville's trying to take the spot in the bottom from Tennessee. And I don't know why they want to do that, because Tennessee just hasn't really been that good this year. So hopefully they could figure it out and bounce back. Taking a look at Indianapolis and Chicago in the rematch of the Super Bowl that was in the 2006-07 season. That one was all Indiana, and this game was also Indiana. So Indianapolis winning the matchup 21-16 in a closer game than people wanted it to be, especially people that picked the Colts. But Indianapolis gets the win at home. Minnesota over Houston. This game was crazy. Minnesota blew them out 34-7. PJ and I thought Houston were going to get the victory, especially with them being at home. They did not. Sam Darnold, man, he's looking good. Aaron Jones looking good in his new digs, going from NFC North team to NFC North team, the Packers to the Vikings. And the Aaron Jones Bowl is this week, when Aaron Jones will go up against the Packers for the first time since going over to Minnesota. Looking at Philadelphia in New Orleans came into this game having scored 91 points in the first 2 weeks of the 2024-25 NFL season. How did they respond? By losing to Philadelphia 15-12. Just an awful game for New Orleans. I said if Derek Carr had another good game, it would be hard to keep him off the field in fantasy and grow some respect for New Orleans. Well, Philadelphia looked like their defense was great. They got down the field. Dallas Goedert did some awesome things. He's an awesome tight end. Philadelphia comes out with the defensive victory, and now you sit here and say to yourself, is Philly's defense really that good, or is New Orleans just having a bad day? Well, you'll have to pay attention about New Orleans, because this game, both teams under 20. Now the question becomes, is New Orleans going to be consistent on offense, and they're going to be a consistently good team overall, not occasionally great? And is Philadelphia's defense getting it together, or was this just a really good game for them? Saquon Barkley has done a great job in his first 3 games with Philadelphia. I don't know why anybody would overlook him. He drops a pass and people freak out on Monday Night Football, but he caught a touchdown and had a place to Lambeau Leap in New Orleans to a bunch of Eagles fans. He knew exactly where they were sitting, and he jumped in there and had a great time. Dude looked dead serious, and I just feel like I can understand the look on his face. Keep living your life, Saquon, and outside noise belongs outside. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business, so keep eating, big dog. Appreciate you and respect the work that you're doing. Pittsburgh and the Chargers. Taking a look at this matchup, PJ and I thought that the Chargers were going to get the victory. Instead, Pittsburgh is in a place now where they are 3-0, and Justin Herbert is not full health. So God willing, he'll be okay as they step forward. They had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler that were weapons for Justin Herbert, who didn't stay healthy consistently, and typically one of them was off the field. Now you got them gone, and Justin Herbert is on the injury report. So God willing, he's going to be okay. Denver, I told you Bo Nix is going to have himself a good rookie season. This was one of my dives into something that I think a lot of people were not saying. I backed Lamar Jackson when he was a rookie. I backed Matt Ryan. Joe Flacco, Mark Sanchez when they were rookies. So I've definitely gone out there with some predictions in history and felt like I was by myself. I heard crickets when I supported Bo Nix in the beginning of the season before a game was played, and Bo Nix went on the road with Denver and took down the Bucks at home in Raymond James Stadium 26-7 in a game that a lot of us didn't expect. There's always a weird week, at least one in the NFL every single season. Week 3 definitely was that. PJ and I got Tampa wrong in picking them to win the game. The They were at home after defeating Baltimore on the road in a game that a lot of people probably did not pick the Raiders to win. PJ and I did not. And in this game, Andy Dalton gets the start on the road in Vegas, and he helps the team win 36-22. He might be the starter for the rest of the season. Dude stays healthy. I can't see him giving up the starting role. How many people had Carolina winning? Raise your hand. Probably not many of you. And Las Vegas loses this one. So if you didn't pick Vegas in week 2, you lost. If you picked them in week 3, you lost. So Vegas, I guess the house is winning. Taking a look at Seattle and Miami, 24-3, Seattle gets this victory. I don't think anybody is stunned here. Without Tua, this team just isn't the same. And God willing, he'll be okay so that he can have a healthy life beyond football. And, he's got plenty of life to live. God willing, he'll have a great life. And I only want the best for him. In Jesus' name. Most precious. Amen. Baltimore, Dallas. Dallas has not started off the season well. They are 0-3. PJ picked Dallas. I was like, oh my goodness, did I pick Dallas? No, I picked Baltimore to win this game. Dallas did come back because Baltimore, I think it was like 21-6. This game was out of hand. And then all of a sudden, Dallas came back. This is how the game shook out. Baltimore was up, 21-6 at halftime. And then they were up 28-6 after the third quarter. And then Dallas scored 3 straight touchdowns and did not allow a score to Baltimore that made the game 28-25. They ran out of time after Kevontae Turpin had a 16-yard pass from Dak Prescott with 2:53 left to go. They weren't able to get that field goal to force overtime or a touchdown to end the game. So Jerry said the Orange will bury Holy Cross. Jerry, thank you for your thoughts, and thank you for watching and listening as always. So I picked Baltimore in that game, and they won on the road at Dallas. So they stopped their bleeding. Dallas is 0-3. Baltimore could have been 0-3. Baltimore is now 1-2. Or pardon me, Dallas is 1-2 because Dallas did win their first game of the season, so my fault on that. Dallas is 1-2. Baltimore is 1-2. Next game that we have here, the Rams and the Niners. The Niners just haven't been making sense, and they haven't done well on the road. They're at home this week, so hopefully they can get it together. San Francisco lost at Minnesota, and they lost this past week back-to-back here, now losing to the Rams. PJ and I had San Fran because Matt Stafford didn't have Puka. Matt Stafford didn't have Cooper Kupp. But Matty Stafford and the team, they found a way. And Kyron Williams, dude balled out. He had 3 touchdowns. Played out of his mind. Big time shout out to the Notre Dame product. Detroit and Arizona. I picked Detroit Rock City. PJ picked Arizona, so I got that one right. And Detroit going on the road winning 20-13. Kansas City and Atlanta. PJ and I both picked PJ picked Kansas City. I picked Atlanta. I got that one wrong. And then Buffalo against my Jaguars. I picked the Buffalo Bills. This game was over so quickly. It was embarrassing. And Washington and Cincinnati. Washington got out to a lead here. 91% completion percentage for Jaden Daniels. He gave all the glory to God, and I shout him out for that above everything else. I told you he would be the best rookie quarterback of the 2024 class, and he has definitely shown that early on. We'll see how it goes from here. PJ and I both picked Cincinnati, and we did not get that right. So PJ got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correct, which puts PJ at 5-11 on the week. Let's just make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 5-11. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went 6-10. This was a weird week. Not a great week for the NFL. And PJ and I have struggled. He was 10-6 in week 1. I was 11-5. Then he and I both went 6-10. And now he's gone 5-11, and I've gone 6-10 for the second week in a row, meaning that PJ's overall record here is 21-27 this season for NFL picks. He's 21-27, and I am 23. Is this correct? Yeah, I am 23-25. So a little bit closer to 500. Now it's time to pick NFL Week 4. Let's hop right into it. NFL Week 4 picks for me, and every team is in action, I believe. I don't think there's anybody off. Is there anybody off this week? No, there's nobody off this week. No, because there's a double Monday nighter. Games start tonight here on Thursday Night Football. Great week for the Commanders. Yeah, Jerry. Shout out to Kyron Williams, like I said, former Notre Dame Fighting Irish and always a member of the Notre Dame family. And, of course, the Washington Commanders. I said Jaden Daniels might be the best thing to happen to them in a really long time at quarterback, and he has not proven that wrong by any stretch of the imagination. He has proven that right to start off the season. So let's take a look at NFL Week 4. I'll be making my picks. Typically, it's PJ and I, but PJ is nursing himself back to health, and hopefully he'll be okay. I would like to think that Dallas can win this game against the New York Giants. The Giants are not known to score a lot of points this season. The Giants' record is 1-2. They scored 6 points in a loss to the Vikings, 28-6. They scored 18 points in a loss to the Commanders on the road, 21-18. And they scored 21 on the road against the Browns, 21-15. They won that game. So barely got over 20 only one time this season. So I would like to think that the Cowboys have enough. And the way that the Cowboys came back against Baltimore, I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this big. And I don't care what the record is. When Dallas plays the Giants, the fans come out. Whether you like the team right now or you don't like the team right now, Dallas fans and Cowboys fans and Giants fans, they get up for games like this and they go buck wild. And they love when it's prime time and it's only their teams playing each other. So I'm going with the Cowboys. I know fans are going to be excited for this one. Next game that we have up here is going to bring us to the 1 o'clock games. New Orleans at Atlanta. Atlanta played a close game against Kansas City at home. New Orleans played an awful game at home against Philadelphia. Who do I think is going to shape up in this one? This one's really, really tough for me. I'm going to go, gosh, goodness. I'm going to go with New Orleans. I mean, I picked New Orleans to win last week. I picked Atlanta to win last week, and they both screwed me. So maybe they'll tie this week. I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm going to go with New Orleans on the road. Los Angeles, the Rams at the Chicago Bears. Well, we've seen the Rams play well against San Francisco without having Puka and Cooper, and now they're playing at Chicago. And I think Caleb's done some nice things, but I'm going to ultimately pick the Rams on the road here. Next game that we have up, Minnesota Green Bay, the Aaron Jones Bowl. Minnesota has had themselves a good start to the season. The issue is that Sam Darnold is on the injury report. Sam Darnold's having a little limp here, and the latest on him still has promise. So taking a look at where he is right now, let's see what we have here. The MRI showed no major injury. He has a knee bruise, but he's not expected to miss any time. Green Bay's played well under Malik Willis, and Jordan Love's trying to come back. I think they're downplaying Jordan Love and what's going on with him. I mean, obviously, I hope he gets healthy and stays well. They said he's close to coming back. I think they're going to ride it out with Malik Willis. He's done a good job. He's won 2 games after getting sacked to end the first game of the season for the team, which was a shootout back and forth in Brazil. And so, I mean, Green Bay's at home, but Minnesota's been good. I'm going to lean on Minnesota here, but I think this is another one of those games where, I mean, that's arguably could be a game of the week. And then we look at Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. Pittsburgh has overachieved by not scoring a lot of points. Indianapolis, I would argue, has underachieved in some of the things that they've done so far this season. Like, they've been all right, but they haven't been great. And, I mean, the Colts, in my opinion, they should be better than they are right now. I think the Colts have been okay, but like I said, I don't think the Colts have been great. They're 1-2 this season. They lost to the Texans by 2. They lost to the Packers on the road in the first game that Malik Willis won as a Packer quarterback. They lost that game by 6, and they just defeated the Bears 21-16. So, I mean, for me, I think Pittsburgh, who I've underestimated so far this season, I can't underestimate them for another week. I know they're on the road, but I'm going with the Steelers to steal another victory away. I got to go with Pittsburgh in this game. Next game that we have up here in week 4 of the 2024-25 NFL season, Denver at New York. This is the Nate Hackett Bowl. And Nate Hackett is a very good friend of mine. The Denver Broncos coming to MetLife to play the New York Giants, or pardon me, the New York Jets. I've done that twice now this week. So the Denver Broncos coming to play the New York Jets. It is the Nate Hackett Bowl. He was the head coach of the Broncos. They didn't even give him a full season. And then he went immediately from there, became the offensive coordinator for the Jets. They played Denver last year. They beat Denver last year in his first season as the offensive coordinator for the Jets. And now they got an opportunity to play the Broncos again. When we go back and look at last season, and Aaron Rodgers coming to the defense of Nate Hackett, who he worked with in Green Bay and had so much success there. They beat Denver in Denver 31-21 last season, and now Denver's returning the favor by coming on the road, but the Jets are trying to keep themselves 2-0 in the Nate Hackett Bowl. And ultimately, I think Bo Nix is going to do some good things here. I like the Jets defense. I think I think last year if they had a quarterback that could get them down the field and into the end zone, I think the Jets could have been a playoff team last year. Now Aaron Rodgers is 2-1. I think that the Jets win this game. But you know I love Bo Nix. And you know that I have said before the season even started that Bo Nix is going to have a good rookie season. Not as good as Jaden Daniels, but I thought he was going to be right behind him there. And I feel like I've said that by myself. So don't be surprised if Bo Nix does some good things in this game. But I'm ultimately going to pick the Jets. Tickets are $100 or less than $100 too, and anything less than $100 in the New York City, New Jersey area, you might want to take them up on it. Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. Philly lost to Tampa last year in the postseason. This is the first game that they played since that moment. Tampa just had a terrible showing at home against Denver. Philadelphia won a close game at New Orleans. So now they're playing another NFC South team. Can Philly take 2 in a row, or does Tampa stop themselves from reeling? Keep in mind, Baker's on the field. Chris Godwin's on the field. Mike Evans is on the field. It's not Rashad White. It's not like they didn't have these guys in the game that they just lost. It's not like Tampa was depleted. So Philadelphia going on the road to Tampa, I think Philly gets the win. Just like we saw Tampa avenge their loss after they defeated Philadelphia in the playoffs last year, they went to Detroit and lost to Detroit. And this time around, they went up against Detroit and beat Detroit. And so now, conversely, Tampa beat Philadelphia, and now I think Philly's going to do to Tampa what Tampa did to Detroit, which is avenge their playoff loss with a regular season win to follow. So I'm going to pick Philadelphia. Cincinnati at Carolina. This is the Andy Dalton Bowl. And Cincinnati, man, they got a ton of firepower. Carolina's at home. They're feeling good with Andy Dalton. Cincinnati just lost to Washington and rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. I might be going out on an extreme limb here, but Cincinnati's been all over the place. And Andy Dalton, he wants to let y'all know what it is. I'm picking Carolina at home. Adam Thielen's on injured reserve, God willing. He'll heal completely and for good and quickly, and we'll get to see him soon. God bless him. Jacksonville at Houston. Jacksonville is playing terrible. Houston just had a terrible game at home. I don't think Houston drops 2 in a row at home. I got the Houston Texans winning this game. Washington and Arizona. This is going to be this could be game of the week. I think there's a lot of fantasy that can happen in here. And Washington gets the win on the road against Arizona. They've done some good things. And if they can win at Cincinnati, I think they can go out and win at Arizona. New England at San Francisco. This could be the Jimmy Garoppolo Bowl, but he's not on either one of these teams anymore. I'm going to pick San Francisco to find a way to win at home, but don't count out the Patriots. San Fran has to stop the bleeding, though, after beating the Jets at home on Monday night and then losing 2 games in a row at Minnesota and at the Rams in division in the NFC West. They got to take down New England and get on the right side of things here and go to 2-2, get back to 500 and regroup. Cleveland at the Raiders. We saw Gardner Minshew II and Aiden O'Connell both play in the last game. Cleveland last year had 5 quarterbacks that started for them. Cleveland can't seem to figure it out. And the Raiders, I think, are still better than people give them credit for. If they can beat the Ravens in the AFC North, I think that the Raiders can beat the Browns at home. I would like to think that, but Vegas, we'll see. Because again, I didn't pick Vegas to beat Baltimore, and then I did pick them at home to beat Carolina. 2 weeks in a row, I've been on the wrong side of it. Hopefully Vegas and I can get on the right side of things this week. Kansas City at the Chargers. With Justin Herbert not being 100%, I got to go with Kansas City. And Kansas City, yes, there's been some calls, and you've been thinking, like, would those calls have been made for other teams? But ultimately, Kansas City's undefeated. And so you go back to games like that, and you're like, did he really contact him? Should you have really made that call? Would you have made that call at other points in the game? And keep in mind, Jacksonville, not that it was going to change the game, Jacksonville was contacted early in the end zone by the Bills, and there was no call. And it looked very similar to the play that gave Kansas City new life. So I'm just saying, Kansas City gets some Michael Jordan calls, and in games like that, is Kansas City going to make a lot of mistakes? Probably not. So when you get those victories and questionable calls, that helps a team out that probably doesn't need your help. I don't really think they do. I'm going to pick Kansas City to win on the road in a matchup of the AFC West. Buffalo at Baltimore. What a good game to have on Sunday Night Football. Baltimore's had some good moments, but they can be better. Buffalo looks really good, and the fans might be feeling really good, but keep in mind, folks, they just played Jacksonville. They didn't play a great team. They played a team that is really not great. And so I think Buffalo might be humbled by this game, but I also think Buffalo's good. And between the two of them, back and forth, I'm going to pick Buffalo to win the matchup. But I'm excited to watch this game for sure. Monday Night Football for the second week in a row has a doubleheader. That means they have the staggered start. So a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time game on ESPN and an 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time game on ABC. They're both owned by Disney, so Disney's getting all the money. Just like when they put an Exxon across the street from a mobile and they think that we're not smart enough to notice. Tennessee at Miami. There's no way I'm picking Miami in this game. I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. Miami might be starting Tyler Huntley. That might be a good bet for them because keep in mind that not this past January, but the January before, Miami went up against Baltimore and Tyler Huntley had to play for an injured Lamar Jackson in the postseason, and Tyler Huntley almost got Baltimore past Miami. And now Tyler Huntley is a Miami quarterback going up against Tennessee. I don't believe in Tennessee right now. I don't believe in Miami. And I feel bad when I say I don't believe in because I feel like that's mean. I don't mean it that way. What I'm saying is I'm not buying into Miami having a good season without Tua, and I'm not sold on Tennessee. Maybe that's a better word than saying believe, because belief to me is very important, and that word carries a lot of value, and it's heavy in a good way for me. So I don't want to use it in a bad way. So I'm just going to say Tennessee, Miami. I don't like either team in this game in the state of what's going on, but I'm going to pick Tennessee. And then Seattle at Detroit. This is going to be a really good game. This is set up to be a really exciting game. Could be a playoff game. Could be a first-round playoff game. We shall see. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions at home. So those are my picks, folks, and I am sticking to it here for NFL Week 4, trying to get on the right side of things after having 2 weeks with a losing record. I don't want to see that again the rest of the season. So with that being stated, I appreciate you for watching and listening to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, many thanks to everyone up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, and the West Coast, watching and listening on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And of course, with us on internet streaming radio, listening on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So many thanks to all of you, wherever you are and however you're connecting with the show. I appreciate it tremendously and can never thank you enough for your support. And that support outstretches to the fact that we are with you on so many different outlets where you can go and watch and listen to the show on playback. And so if you go to Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. You can find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, on any one of these channels by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure that you check it out. And I thank you so much for being with us on all these channels. Make sure to click follow and subscribe on any one of those channels. Many thanks to our incredible team that has the Brooklyn Pickle down in North Carolina. Much love to the Brooklyn Pickle that's right by Pinehurst Golf Courses. Make sure that you go out and hang out with them. Fantastic food. North Carolina, I don't know what sandwich shops you have, but you got nothing like the Brooklyn Pickle, I would argue to say, because there's nothing in central New York like the Brooklyn Pickle. We know how to make a good sandwich up here in the state of New York, and we've now brought it down to North Carolina, making that connection. Just like Syracuse came to the ACC, the Brooklyn Pickle is coming to the North Carolina home area, and obviously that being the hub of the ACC, and now you have a wonderful, wonderful place in Brooklyn Pickle, 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, just a few minutes down the road from Pinehurst Golf Courses. Make sure you head out there today. Let them know the DT sent you. Many thanks to Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world. If you're outside of Central New York, go to maandpazpopcorn.com and order today online. If you're here, go to 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, and take full advantage of your taste buds having a party any week of the year and any season of the year. Ma and Pa's, they got it all. They truly are, like, to me, they're the snack capital of the world. So make sure that you go out and see what I mean by that in Ma and Pa's today. 201 7th North Street, Liverpool, New York. If you're outside of the community, maandpazpopcorn.com. GG Cards and Breaks, Pizza Man, Great Lakes, Honda City, Mother's Cupboard, the home of my breakfast sandwich exclusively. You can go to Mother's Cupboard at 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, and get the Q-Smack Mother. And, of course, you can go and get my exclusive sundae by going out to Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York, and enjoy the DT Dolphin down the street from the Lemoyne Dolphins. And that is mint chocolate chip, green for the Dolphins, topped off with hot fudge, whipped cream, and a cherry, green and gold sprinkles for the Dolphin colors, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. There's nothing like it. Come and get one today. Servomation, reimagining, reinventing, reinvigorating, to me, what it means to have vending machines in your business, in your school, at a rest stop. Servomation.com has awesome choices. I got to tour one of their facilities. Find out more at servomation.com. You will not be disappointed by bringing them in, as so many people have. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. Find the Dolphins every single week on Dolphin Time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Wake Up Call. We dive into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. And we're going to do a special Dolphin Dive tomorrow as we celebrate the Gold Wave Hall of Fame inductees of 2024 to Lemoyne College Athletics. Very prominent, prestigious, and awesome Hall of Fame. So excited to share those with you. And of course, many thanks to the Dolphins for making us the first ever exclusive multimedia marketing partner in the history of the school. You can find them on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the Lemoyne playlist. You can also swim over to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and the exclusive partners tab to find the Dolphins. For more information, go to lemoynedolphins.com. And fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. You will find the Bobcats every month in what we call the Bobcat Buzz. Student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year, enjoying and having a great time with a fantastic gem here in our community. They have two campuses right up the road from downtown Syracuse on James Street in Syracuse, New York, and of course right off of Route 57 in Liverpool across the street from Avicoli's, another proud partner of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Bobcat Buzz dives into the stories of student athletes, coaches, and administration, and you can claw your way over to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt to find our Bobcat Buzz many broadcasts. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the BSC Syracuse playlist. You can also go to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab to find the Bobcats. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. Find your Bearcats every single Tuesday during Bearcat Time. Tuesdays worldwide at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on Wake Up Call. We feature moments with Marshall throughout the year with Gene Marshall, the athletics director of Binghamton University, and the Bearcat Break Room with student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories all throughout the year. And I appreciate them so very much. So make sure that you go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Binghamton University playlist. You can also go to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab to find everything you need right there with the Bearcats on our website. And of course, for more information, you can go to bubearcats.com. As always, go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Papa Joe for being with us. Even though he's been under the weather, he brought us incredible information and is continuing to be a one-stop shop to help you. If you know nothing about the baseball season, he will catch you up on hitting, pitching, records, division, what's going on. Can't thank him enough for being just such a fantastic mind and an even better person. And I love you, and I hope you get better, PJ. Thank you for tuning in to speak on the problems with collegiate athletics. I hope the best for Matt Sluka and UNLV, as well as Michael Allen. NCAA talk when it comes to football, NFL. We made our picks. We went back and looked at college football week 4, made the picks for week 5. Went back and looked at NFL week 3, made the picks for week 4. Talked baseball with Papa Joe and had a great time with you. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Make sure that you're with us on youtube.com/Wake Up Call DT and facebook.com/Wake Up Call DT for an all new episode of Broadcasting at Brian's with me in the kitchen once again with Chef Tom McNerney. And this time we're making maple glazed pork ribeye, and that could very well be my favorite dish that has outseeded the ahi tuna BLT. So it's extremely good. You can see us make it here in the kitchen at Brian's Landing. Head out to Brian's Landing today, 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, or you could say DT sent me. And at 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, you will see the all-new episode of The Light Between Us, sharing faith, positivity, and a connection with God. And now more than ever, I think the world needs to hear it. So happy to have Tanitha joining me on the show. Tanitha Anasthez joining me from Chick-fil-A Cicero in our Chick-fil-A Cicero partnered Light Between Us broadcast that we bring you every month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from Chick-fil-A Cicero on 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, New York. So broadcasting at Brian's episode 3, maple glazed pork ribeye is already been unveiled to you. It's already available on YouTube and Facebook and coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, an all-new edition of The Light Between Us. Have a fantastic day. Please be safe and watch and listen to Wake Up Call tonight as we will do an all-new Tortora and Alford pregame show for Holy Cross Crusaders at the Syracuse Orange football game. So I'll be back in the studio tonight with Isaac Alford, the other half of Tortora and Alford. We'll see you then. In the meantime, Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. God bless. No